Good evening. Welcome to the March 11th Village Board Work Session. This meeting is now called to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I don't know if anybody on camera can hear it, but just a lot of sirens going by. There's a lot of activity. So thank you to our first responders who are, again, missing dinner with their families to go help out members of our community. I have a few announcements, and I know some of my colleagues do as well. We'll get started with that, unless there's something else I needed to do before that. No? Okay. Our Green Building Code regulations. We did a public meeting about that earlier this year, and we have posted for a couple of weeks now the opportunity for community members, if you would like to be part of that. This committee is going to be investigating Green Building Code guidelines that are already in place in other municipalities, particularly in our area. We heard from two when we did the public meeting. We heard from Yonkers and Hastings. One municipality much larger than ours, another much smaller, very, very different approaches to how they did it. So those will obviously be two of the sets of guidelines that we'll be reviewing, that committee will be reviewing. So we have some folks who have already agreed to be part of it, folks who are part of our Historic Preservation Commission and Planning Board and such. But we have spots available to anyone in the community who would like to participate in this group. If you have any interest, please reach out to Assistant Village Manager Christina Pace. That's at earlier this year at the Ossining Public Library, and we are hosting one at the Briarcliff Public Library this Sunday, March 15th, from 2 to 3:30 p.m. If you have any interest in finding out about solar for your property, please come. There'll be a very informative workshop, plenty of time for questions. As you've heard me say, this is an initiative that's a collaboration of the villages of Ossining and Briarcliff and the town of Ossining, along with our volunteer group Green Ossining, which is helping us with the public outreach, and it's really very informative, and it's designed to help break down the barriers that sometimes people feel reluctant to move forward with solar. This makes it much easier for people to really find out about it and see if it's right for you. So that's, again, this Sunday, March 15th at 2 o'clock at the Briarcliff Public Library. And then at the Ossining Public Library on tomorrow, so if you're watching this live or right away, it's Thursday, March 12th. Our normal start time is 6:30. We're actually going to start with some live music before that, about 6:15 or 6:20. The Raging Grannies will be singing. They sing politically activist songs, which is very reflective of the life and the contributions of the subject of this month's documentary, Mercedes Sosa. She was an incredible force for Latin America and for the music world in calling to task some of the dictatorships in Latin America in the 60s and 70s particularly. I hope you will join us. The conversation afterwards should be fascinating. We have some terrific panelists. So please join us at the Ossining Public Library for this month's screening of Mercedes Sosa, 6:30 in the Bedars Theater. Anyone else? Then we'll Christine Casado.
Yes, thank you. We have just more like two reminders. March 14, at 11 a.m., we're going to have another Coffee with a Cop. It was very successful last time that we did, the first time that we did it. Now we're doing it the second time, and that's going to be held in Maya Rivera restaurant in the town of Ossining. So please join us, police department, and also on the same place, same location, on March 29 between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. We're going to be, there's going to be a fundraiser to help out one of our fellow police officers, Officer Walker, that his house caught on fire a couple weeks back. So please join us. It's a great event. It's a great opportunity to show that our community, how Ossining works together with everybody here. Thank you.
Good evening. I have two announcements. The first one is the town of Ossining, along with Communities That Care and residents and a couple of local leaders, have put together a great suicide prevention program and workshop series. It started about 2 Mondays ago, and it's going to go on for the next 3 Mondays, March 16th, March 23rd, and March 30th. All workshops are free to attend. All you have to do is RSVP by emailing rsvp@sisfi.org or by calling 917-651-1869. I've had the opportunity to be part of some of the planning and attend the first workshop, and it's great. It's really an issue that has to be addressed by the community as a whole, and you know, suicide affects everyone. So it's great that Ossining is taking the first step to really address it through a program like this, and hopefully we'll continue to find ways to address this subject for all ages. My next announcement is that the Westchester County Board of Legislators Hispanic Task Force, along with County Legislator Borgia, will be hosting a community outreach day right here in Ossining on Saturday, March 28th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Claremont School. It's going to be a great opportunity for people to meet with a lot of service providers when it comes to different programs and agencies in the county, as well as a lot of Ossining-based organizations such as our village, our town, our medical and dental services, and many more. So it's a great opportunity. It's free, and conveniently it's happening during the farmers market. So you could go shopping, then get some help and brochures and learn about what's going on. So it's a win-win. Saturday, March 28th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Turn it over to Village Manager, Richard Lyons.
Okay, thank you. We have a very interesting agenda this evening, which will be followed by an executive session for a collective negotiation discussion, and also to discuss particular personnel, and a short legal meeting with council. The first item is a discussion on LED streetlight possibilities and potentials for the village, and we've also invited the town of Ossining to be with us this evening, so thank you all for coming in. We're hoping that we can do a further collaboration. Village engineer Paul Fraioli and I have had an opportunity to meet on several occasions with representatives from Lumen Light Solutions, and they have joined us this evening to discuss the success that they've had in the county of Westchester. They've had an opportunity, I believe, to help with assistant LED installations in Yonkers, and also been able to piggyback on other communities so we can take advantage of bulk pricing, and also to succeed in that installation by partnering up with other communities, and in this case also might be the town of Ossining. So I'd like to turn it over to Paul Fraioli to come forward to discuss what we've been able to do so far. So Paul.
Thank you, Richard. Good evening, Mayor and Board.
Good evening.
Welcome, Town of Ossining members. Happy you're here tonight. This is going to be, I believe, the start of a nice collective project that's going to take some time. As Richard said, this is not something that is coming to you tonight without much research, meetings, and presentation preparation. Therefore, when we collectively thought about this presentation tonight, we thought it best not to give you advanced copies of the proposal, because you're going to have a myriad of information presented to you tonight, and a lot of it. So to have the proposal in advance might have been a little short-sighted. This way, our consultant and we can gather the information that comes out of this work session environment and put it into a formal proposal, and then go from there and bring it back in for review by council, the manager's office, and then give it to you again as a request for the contract. So that said, I'd like to do a couple of minutes of presentation to explain to the public, the town, and the village board how we got to this stage of the game, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Heather Kuffel from Lumen Light Solutions, and she's going to do the formal presentation that describes the financing component, the technical component, and the overall operational and capital savings component that a contract such as this may provide the village. Heather's with me tonight, along with Mr. Kenny Garrett, who most of you know, but if you don't, he is our Department of Public Works fellow who takes care of our streetlight program, so if you don't know him, I'm sure you've seen him out there. That said, approximately a year ago, Kenny and I attended a presentation at the Pace Law Center, which included, amongst other things, LED lights as an option to save communities energy. And we met a couple of folks down there, one of which was Mr. Brad Tito, who is Yonkers Director of Sustainability, who I think some of you may know because he came up and presented on our green building codes here. And we interfaced with him between then and now. And we also met Ms. Heather Cuffle and her partner, Rob Craig, who works for Lumen Light Solutions, which is a conglomerate of which is a joint venture of Yonkers Contracting and Verity Electric, both very well known and respected contractors in New York State. They basically formed this group, and I'll let her go into the details, to provide these services for what has quickly become a very public buzzword, and that's LED lighting. Now, when the village was approached over the last year by many vendors trying to sell their version of their fixture for LED lighting, we took a step back. We wanted to get our arms around it, learn exactly what an LED light was, more than just knowing that it stands for light emitting diode. We wanted to learn about potential savings. We wanted to learn about different versions of LED lighting. We wanted to learn about the true benefit, the true cost benefit that we would gain other than just the benefits to the energy efficiencies in those fixtures. So since that time, we also did some internal work. I want to go over some of the things that we documented and studied a little bit to get us to where we are tonight. As you know, there's an IMA with the town of Austin to maintain their fixtures. The Department of Public Works of the village does the streetlight maintenance in the town. That's how we started thinking about doing something in conjunction with the town. The costs of maintaining fixtures, just to get our arms around what it takes every year, we did a totaling of 2012, 13, and 14, and we have expenses of roughly $50,000 over those 3 years just for operating maintenance of our light fixtures, and the town spends approximately $5,000 in that 3-year period. So, you know, a couple $1,000s a year for the town, just in operating costs, and $20,000 plus or minus a year for the village, just in operating costs, which is essentially bulb replacement, photo cell replacement, and the like. We started to think about the long-term solutions with LED, and we had multiple meetings with Lumen Light Solutions, the last of which was a meeting that we had with the collection of managers that Richard and I attended, where we got to study an existing contract that New Rochelle put out for light fixture purchases, and then Richard and I had a separate meeting with Lumen Light Solutions where we thought we might be able to use that existing contract to satisfy procurement policy here and roll it into an installation contract with Lumen Light Solutions. We prepared that proposal and concurrently developed an inventory for the town and the village to see what that proposal would mean for us from a financial perspective. We gathered that all up, and we have that for Heather to present to you tonight. I'm not going to give you any numbers, I'm going to leave that to her, but just so you know, when she's going through this presentation, I know you're going to come up with a lot of questions, including procurement, finance, aesthetics, timetables, long-term cost benefits, capital expenses, operating savings, and et cetera. I will tell you that we've met with the finance office, who's also had discussions with Lumen Light Solutions to talk about the financing options, so we're going to discuss that a little tonight. Kenny and I have talked with Lumen Light Solutions to talk about the installation protocol and technical specifics behind it, what we have in the field versus what some of the other work that they've done in Yonkers, et cetera, and as well as the manager's office to talk altogether in a contract, because it's not your typical contract. It's more of a quasi design build, which is fine and legal. And it's just that it's a little different than the typical putting things out to bid. So we're gonna go over those details tonight, and at this stage of the game, it's appropriate to turn it over to Ms. Heather Koffel from Lumen Light Solutions, and then we'll come for some questions. So she's gonna do about a 15-minute presentation, which I think would be best if it goes uninterrupted, and then just jot notes, and then we'll go over the questions after that. Thank you.
Thank you for having me here tonight. My name's Heather Koffel, and I'm with Lumen Light Solutions. So what if I could tell you could cut your streetlight power bill by more than half? That's what you can accomplish with LED streetlights. LED streetlights come with a lot of questions and a lot of angst in a lot of municipalities. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about who Lumen is, which Paul touched on pretty decently, what LEDs are, and our approach, how it can benefit the village and town of Ossning, some things you should consider as you move forward, and how you can use this approach to pay nothing until the conversion is entirely complete, and you use the energy savings to pay for the project. So let's start with who Lumen is. Lumen is a special purpose entity that was set up by Yonkers Contracting Company and Verde Electric. Yonkers is a general contractor that has been located in Westchester, headquartered in Yonkers for nearly 70 years. We have built a number of large projects around large and small projects around the area. You've probably seen our paving trucks on the Sawmill or the Taconic or Route 9A doing various paving projects around the area. But highlighted here are some projects that we're particularly proud of, including the fact that we built our own office, and it was DMV in Yonkers for many years. Hasn't been for 10 years, but we still get people coming in to find DMV. We led the joint venture that restored the path service to the World Trade Center after 9/11, and we did all the site work and foundations for Ridge Hill. Notably and importantly at Ridge Hill and a number of our other projects, Verde Electric has served as our electrical subcontractor. So it was a natural partnership building on the relationship to provide streetlights with Verde. They are a dedicated electrical contractor, have been in Westchester for 20 years, do a lot of work around the area. I know they've done some signal work recently in the town of Ossning. They are dedicated to streetlights, traffic signals, as well as other electrical disciplines. But what's important here is that they understand and they know how to work on Con Ed poles, how to work within the Con Ed wires, and how to deal with a number of electrical issues that you come up with, as well as how to work within the traffic conditions that we have in these areas. And that is something that is important to note because it's important to keep the workers and the traffic safe, as well as any pedestrians going through the area. We are the venture that performed the streetlight conversion for the city of Yonkers. We converted 11,300 lights in 11 months. Starting with a field verification and audit, we then proceeded to purchase, furnish, and install all of the lights and completed all the Con Ed data entry, which I'll explain what all of those are in some detail to answer a number of questions I'm sure that all raised. But this is actually a GPS mapping of the street lighting system with the colors representing the different wattages of lights. So as you can see, you've got a major arterial, Central Avenue, that would operate on what would be a high pressure sodium 400 watt, which is a Philips equivalent today. The green areas are the equivalent of a 100 watt, red areas are 250 watts, similar. So you can see the exact street lighting system and you know exactly what they have. The benefit this brings is when somebody calls and says, hey, at the corner of Yonkers and Tuckahoe, across from XYZ store, there's a street light out. The DPW staff can go in Google Earth, put that address in, find out what exactly light is there, take a light out and deal with it, as they need to over the course of the future. Of course, LED streetlights come with very little maintenance, so it would be storms or weather-related or Con Ed-related issues, or perhaps a traffic light getting knocked down from a car, from a traffic accident, or the like. We've also been awarded a contract with New Rochelle that they bid out. Yonkers put theirs out as an RFP with the aim of saving them the most money, which afforded the contractor the ability to propose which light. New Rochelle took a different approach. They spent probably 2 years that we spent talking with them, researching various LEDs, and I think they've tested every LED that is manufactured in the marketplace. And when they put their bid out, they specified, they gave specifications you had to meet. And they preferred the Philips fixture be the one that was awarded, but they were open to other fixtures that met that specification as long as they were an or equal. At the end of the day, Philips fixture is what met their requirements, and that's what we bid on. We bid a contract that was 2 parts: the conversion, inventory, furnish, install, and input the Con Ed database, as well as generating mapping for them, with a financing option. And financing, I used the quotation when I said that, because it's really a lease, and I can explain how the financing element works. But the reason I'm here tonight is because we have the ability to piggyback other municipalities within the state of New York onto that contract. There is a provision in New York state law that allows for, when a contract's bid out via a straight bid and awarded by a low bid mechanism, for the contract to include a piggybacking clause that allows any municipality to then purchase the same materials or the same services through that contract, as long as the vendor agrees. Clearly, we agree because I'm standing here. If you have questions about the legalities of that, I can certainly put attorneys in contact with the attorneys that researched that at New Rochelle and at Irvington. As Paul mentioned, the last time I met him, one of the times I met with him was at a session that the Village of Irvington arranged to talk with all of the different village managers and DPW staff about LED street lighting. So now to address some of your questions on LED streetlights themselves. Why LEDs? They increase the efficiency of your lighting. You get equal lighting with using less kilowatts, therefore your power bill decreases. Important consideration here is to specify that you want an equal or better lighting than the existing lighting. That's what Yonkers did, and that's what New Rochelle did, both in their bids. So in the process of performing our services, we compare the level of lightings from the LED model to the model of what you have out there, and make sure the lighting is equal or better. In more cases, it's better than equal. LEDs also offer extended life. Most LEDs in the marketplace are tested to last 18 or more years. The Philips fixtures are tested to last 20 or more years. They're also warranted, which you don't often find with lights. The typical manufacturer offers a warranty of 5 years with the LED fixtures. With the proposal for Yonkers and the bid for New Rochelle, they were asked to warranty for 10 years. Philips's fixtures are warranted for 10 years. That means if anything happens to it that's not related to a power surge or an equivalent of Superstorm Sandy, that they will replace the fixture free of charge. LEDs also offer a superior quality of light. By that I mean color rendering and enhanced visibility. I'm going to give you some examples. Meaning they give a pure white light is the Philips goal. Operating at a temperature spec that gives you a clear white light. Many people think that LEDs are blue, but they're not. Or they can be, but are not in this case. Just to touch on traditional street lighting versus the LEDs, this photo on the right shows your typical high pressure sodium vapor light. You'll notice the orange color to it. That's because they operate at a 2700 Kelvin temperature lighting. Why do we like this, or why did we do this? Because they're inexpensive fixtures, they emit a lot of light, and they light up the streets. Other lights had issues with them. Mercury vapors had environmental problems because they've got actual mercury in them and those types of things. So we moved to the high pressure sodiums as roadway standards because they provided a lot of light that we wanted. The downside was they gave us orange light. LEDs today provide a white light. That's what's shown on the left. And the Philips fixtures are manufactured to the 4,000 Kelvin temperature, so you'll see this neutral white light. The blue light comes from early LED manufacturing when they did produce them at a cooler lighting temperature, so they did emit a bluer light. But since then, the market has advanced, and they're producing them at a white light. Most roadway lighting is acceptable between 3,000 to 6,000 Kelvin, which gives you the range of color lighting if you look at, if you're a photographer or look at color lighting maps. Again, the Philips fixtures are at the 4,000. Some manufacturers do still produce at the 5,000. And a number of the manufacturers we compete against do. Why do they do that? Because they believe that, and it does throw out a bit more light, and they drive the fixture to emit more light, but the downside is it comes with that blue light. It's not as efficient in terms of how it burns the fixture out quicker, but it's less expensive for them to produce, and does have, in some cases, kilowatt benefits, in some cases not. But when we compared our savings, when we looked at Yonkers, we looked at several different lights, and the savings that it would generate for Yonkers, and the Philips won hands down. This picture that I showed you earlier is from Boston, where they installed the Philips fixtures that we would install for you. They installed 23,000 lights, and today are seeing $2.8 million in savings in the city of Boston. The better quality of light has many benefits. For starters, it gives drivers a clearer driving experience, so they see better. There have been some municipalities in the US and overseas that have studied LED lighting and concluded that they reduce traffic accidents because the light is clearer, because it does not glare as much on your windshield as the high pressure sodiums do. And if you want to drive an area where they have them, if you drive down Central Avenue in Yonkers at night, you will see the difference between the high pressure sodium lights and the LED lights where they've been installed. They also offer better color rendering. As you can see here, you can tell the car is blue. You can tell the guy has a khaki jacket. The house is a blue-gray. The streets are asphalt, the concrete sidewalks. You can get a very clear picture as though it were imitation daylight, and that's the goal of the LED lighting. I know the village and historic areas are very sensitive about the color of lighting, so I want to spend a minute on a couple of historic neighborhoods where LEDs have been installed. You can see where the high pressure sodium is. You get the yellow cast. You can't really tell what color the grass is, whether it's brown in the winter or green in the summer, and you can't really see what colors the cars are. After the LEDs were installed in Concord, North Carolina, this is the lighting that they're seeing. You can tell the different colors, and again, you see the clarity of the picture. A few additional pictures of streets with the high pressure sodium and the Philips fixture that we would install for you. These are not any fixture, they are the Philips fixtures that would be installed in the village, and the ones that are installed in Yonkers. The village has historic fixtures, so we thought it important to show some decorative lights and the difference between them in the high pressure sodium light bulbs and the types of bulbs that would be installed in your historic neighborhoods. These are shots of Dobbs Ferry, where they have been installing fixtures. They, about, I think it's 4 years ago, and they were one of the presenters at the Energy Forum where I met Paul at. They decided they wanted to try to convert to the LED streetlights. They thought they were smart, and they put out a bid, and they got all the pricing, and they've got good pricing for the time, but they're paying probably a third more than what Yonkers paid. They've purchased 150 fixtures, and over 3 years, they're finally getting those 150 installed. And they're now talking with us about how to complete the remainder of their lights, because they realize 3 years is a long time, and that's not even half of their lights. I wanted to touch on a couple of other benefits of the Philips roadway luminaires. In addition to the quality of lights, and that other villages and municipalities and towns and cities have researched LED lighting and continuously come up with the Philips fixture as the solution for them. They're designed to meet roadway lighting standards, so they're designed for roadways. As I said earlier, they have a 10-year warranty, but that means nothing unless the person or company is around in 10 years to for you to claim the warranty against. The manufacturer, Philips, has been in the lighting business for over 100 years. Everybody knows Philips light bulbs. A lot of people may not know that they've done the outdoor lighting, but they have for that entire time. They're a leader and innovator in LED lighting solutions, and recently you probably saw some news about Philips separating their divisions and reorganizing their divisions into their medical and technology business and their lighting business. That enables them to do the things like the emergency, the help I've fallen, I can't get up things, and toothbrushes in one business line, and devote one business line straight to lighting that will allow them to better serve and continue to serve in a high quality their lighting division. For people who understand all the technical aspects of lights, there are a number of exceptional specifications with the Philips fixtures, but just touching on things that the layman can understand, the efficiency of the light is high. It gives a lot of lights per lumen that it has. So it's lighting your roadways and replacing the existing lights you have without having to add lights to cover dark spots in between. Oftentimes, high pressure sodiums or other fixtures blow because of the surges that we get. When demand peaks and when demand goes down on our grid, it causes surges to occur in the Con Ed system. And lights are often the subject of that. LEDs come, and Philips LEDs in particular, come with 20 kV of surge protection built into the light. So they're built so that they will withstand those surges that we typically get in a grid, particularly during the summer months. They're also resistant to vibration, so they won't blow because of a building contractor or street work or whatever may be going on in the area. All of Philips fixtures the parts are manufactured by Philips. The key pieces are the luminaire, the LED driver, and the LED arrays that Philips manufactures. A number of the other manufacturers of streetlights pull parts and pieces from different manufacturers, and they assemble them and slap their name on them. I have yet to find an LED streetlight that does not use Philips LED diodes themselves. So the arrays often are Philips arrays even in other fixtures. So that's enough about LED streetlights and the colors and the quality of them. I want to touch now on what we do, how we do it, and how it can benefit OSME. This chart looks a little bit cumbersome, but it's sort of a attempt at a simplified version of how the whole system works. It's really divided into 3 phases: an audit phase, installation phase, and a lease phase. I'm going to touch on each of these briefly. The audit phase is where we do an inventory of your system. We take your existing Con Ed database and we verify what's there in the field. How do we do this? We take your database, this is actually your database, and we map these. You can see here that your Con Ed database will tell what street it's on and an attempt at a location. Some of these are Con Ed codes, like the NSWO South Highland is like the north, southwest of something or other. But we have an expert that understands all of this lingo who then maps it on a mapping system. You are billed, just so you understand, based on kilowatt usage. How do you get kilowatts out of this? The rated watts are the watts that these types of fixtures use. The 141 is a 100-watt fixture with 100 watt plus the ballast. Your ballast that you have in the light uses power. So this is the rated watt that Con Ed then accepts in their system for 100-watt high-pressure sodium. Your annual burn hours come from a NYPA and Public Service Commission negotiated study of how much light there is daytime and nighttime. And it's actually broken out by month. So each month your bill reflects the number of nighttime hours that are in that given month. It's actually fun to look at.
So are you
In some
I don't mean to
cases.
interrupt, but are you telling me that our lights aren't metered?
Your lights are not metered.
Hold on,
No.
can you give me that and I'll make it go away?
Your lights are not metered. You're billed on rated watts.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So pretty much you're billed based on the number of lights and the wattages that they are in your system. Now what happens if that's wrong? Okay? You're either underpaying or you're overpaying. Now, how is it that this streetlight system may be wrong? Well, years ago, Con Ed created it. And in, I think it was the late 90s, early 2000s, a lot of municipalities started asking them, well, I want to see my database, I want to see if it's accurate, I want you to do an audit and confirm it's accurate. Their answer, well, we're going to give you username and passwords, and we'll give you access to your database, and if you want to confirm it's accurate, have more power to you. So villages then, and towns, and even the city of Yonkers looked at their database and went, oh man, okay, we'll get to it one day, and they never quite got to it. So depending on the accuracy of the database will depend on where things fall out as far as accuracy of any quote that you get going through this process. But our first step again is to map it and audit it. We confirm that every light that's on your Con Ed database is actually in the field. We put a dot on a map that represents your light. We use the Westchester County streetlight or Westchester County utility pole mapping to try to match some of them, and then ones that don't have an exact match, we'll put a dot there to confirm whether or not it's there. One thing I should note at this point is that during the audit phase, one of the benefits of hiring somebody that does a comprehensive solution like Lumen is that at this point, we'll actually put in a hold for release order with the manufacturer that tells them, hey, I'm gonna need approximately 1,500 lights for the village of Ossining and 500 lights for the town of Ossining, and this is the mix I think they're gonna be. And the benefit that gives, it allows them to start gathering all the parts to manufacture all the lights. Because we tell them a draft implementation schedule, and they know about when we're gonna need and about what we're gonna need. So that keeps the process moving and flowing seamlessly, so you don't have long wait periods in between phases of the project. We then field verify the fixtures with coding indicating the status of the fixture. And then we produce a report, and we share it with you and DPW. We sit down with you and we give you what Con Ed says you have, what we saw you had, and what our proposed replacement is based on evaluating what's actually out there, what's in the Con Ed database, and what the recommended replacement is for the wattage that you have there to keep an equal or better level of light to what you currently have. When we're doing the field audit, we gather the GPS coordinates for each light, so then we're able to create a map. And the map helps you significantly in your review of your lighting system because you haven't got to go through 1,500 line items on an Excel spreadsheet or 11,000 items on an Excel spreadsheet. You can simply look at a map and zoom into the map and see how your lighting's looking. And you can ask why it appears the lighting is odd or different, or maybe half a street is lit with 100 watts, half the street's lit with 150s, and you want to look at why, and you want to make changes to that. This is the time to make changes to your lighting plan. So we go through a review with you, and you accept the audit, and our installation plan is submitted to you with the audit, so you're aware of how we're going to proceed. As we move into installation, we have already released some of the fixtures based on when we get to 50% of the audit completion, we'll release some fixtures so we have them on hand to begin the installation at completion of the audit. And we keep the fixtures flowing so that the installation can progress smoothly throughout the entire process. I'm going to touch on each of these points briefly. Planning is done during the audit phase. Again, that's a benefit of hiring somebody who does a comprehensive solution. The planning is done in the audit that we're doing so we can move directly into field execution and always do the planning with the end solution in mind. Field execution, that's where we install the fixtures. We order them, we stock them, we store them. You don't have to worry about anything except maybe attending monthly meetings and reading the reports that we send to you, telling you how we're progressing. This map is web-based, and we give you access to it so you can look and see how your streetlight project is converting along. The field crews use iPads to access this map, and when they click on a dot and they say this light is now converted, and yes, I converted it with this model, and that's what I installed, the system automatically records the date and time of the conversion. That date and time is very important because that's what Con Ed accepts as the date we installed the light. So then it doesn't matter if we enter that information into Con Ed the following day or the following day. They will accept that date as the date that it was converted because it's an automated process. that we can't modify. This then generates your savings. All the fixtures that we've installed are entered into the Con Ed database, and that's when you start seeing your bill change. We will modify the Con Ed database throughout installation, so the bills will start going down. You'll give us copies of your NYPA billing, and via access to your Con Ed system, we will be able to look at the backup that's being given to NYPA and verify that all of the changes that we're making are coming through on your billing, and you're seeing accurate billings. You will then get a final status report. Again, Excel spreadsheets that you can read, or maps that you can look at and drill down on. And at this point, the system is completely converted. Note that I haven't said a thing about payment yet. Your system is entirely converted, you're seeing your savings, and you haven't paid me a dime. That's where the third phase comes in, which we refer to as the lease phase. It's often referred to as the financing phase. And why do we call it a lease phase? Because we use the New York State Energy Law, has a provision in it that allows any municipality to install energy efficiency measures and pay for them over a period not to exceed their useful life. That's how Yonkers established the financing, that's how New Rochelle and Elmsford are establishing the financing mechanism. So in essence, they're leasing the streetlights from us for the period of their lease. In the case of Yonkers, it's 10 years, New Rochelle is 7 years, and Elmsford is going with 5 years. A 5, 7, or 10-year period is what makes the most sense. Even though the lights will last for 18 to 20 years, you really don't want to finance them for 18 to 20 years. You really want to stick with a 5, 7, or 10-year period. You pay me based on lump sum annual payments that you know the day we go in. Of course, there's some adjustments. If there's, during the audit phase, there's more or less lights, we'll adjust and mutually agree on the adjustments, but you pay me a lump sum. And this pays for the project out of the energy savings generated by the project. What this means for the village and town of Ossining. I want to show you some numbers. I'm going to go through each the village and the town since you're both here. This is a summary of the village of Ossining system. Your current system, you have 1,159 lights in your database that show as Cobra heads or street lights. You have 32 that are flagged as decorative. That means that at some point, Con Ed or you ask them to create a decorative category. In understanding Ossining and knowing Ossining and in discussions with Paul, the 32 decoratives is probably understated, because as in Yonkers, all of the street lights, if it's serving a street light purpose, even if it's a decorative light, shows in their system as a street light. So in Yonkers, we created a decorative category and moved all their decoratives in the decorative category. Similarly, we will follow here and move any decorative lights that are showing as regular street lights into your decorative system. In essence, doesn't make any difference in Con Ed's system, but it's helpful for you when you're managing the system. These are the replacement fixtures that we identify based on the level of light for the different wattages you have in your database. You're going to save 63% of your power bill every year. Your bill is going to go from $177,000 a year to $70,000 a year. You'll save 106. Your kilowatt usage goes from 716,000, these two combined, to 429,000. Why we calculate the kilowatt usage and highlight that is because the energy cost changes. When we did the Yonkers proposal, they were using 21 cents a watt as the standard to even all the proposals out. New Rochelle used 23 cents a watt. Working with Yonkers, and you continue to monitor their bills, we know your energy cost in 2015 will be going up to almost 25 cents a watt. So as your energy cost increases, your savings will increase because the value of your kilowatt savings goes up. Similarly for the town, you'll save 63% based on your current inventory. You have 373 lights that use 274,000 kilowatts. You'll save 173,000 kilowatts or $43,000 a year in your power. Now to how much this is going to cost. These unit costs come from the New Rochelle and Elmsford bid for all the services that we provide. this is included. The audit, install, purchase of the lights is all here. And entry into the CONNET database, as well as GIS mapping, and giving you a deliverable that's both a GIS map that you could import to a GIS system, as well as a Google Earth map that you can use in any computer that has Google Earth on it. Worth highlighting here is you are receiving the benefit of 7,000 fixture order, and you're ordering less than that. The pricing that Philips gave us, based on the volume that we've done for Yonkers, the volume that we're doing for New Rochelle and Elmsford, and the potential in Westchester to do more, is reflected in the price. So you're seeing a price of probably 15% less than what Yonkers paid, 25% less than what Dobbs Ferry paid for theirs, in this price. So for the village, the total cost is $523,000. For the town, it's $156,000 based on your current ConEd database inventory, reflective of the pricing that you're getting and the cost efficiency that you'd be getting by doing both the town and the village at the same time. We haven't got to remobilize to do both. We can mobilize and do both together as opposed to breaking it up. The project cost again includes everything, the audit, the conversion, the furnish, install, taking care of everything in a one-stop shop for you. We keep you fully informed, we attend meetings, answer calls, whatever information you need during the process. If you want to send out or do robocalls to your residents, we help with that process. We keep you informed of when we're installing, where we're installing, and help you along the way with your public outreach. All work is included in the project cost. What happens after conversion? Lights are maintenance free. You haven't got to do anything with them. Unless they get knocked down, you have to go to put one back up. We monitoring your savings is important to make sure you're continuing to receive your savings year after year. There are instances where lights get knocked down by maybe traffic accidents or damage. In Yonkers, they have problems with people actually shooting them out and throwing rocks at them and different things. Was quite a learning experience down there. And then of course there's storms that sometimes with the wind will knock them down, and vulnerable areas or knock poles down that might be weak. With the lease option through Lumen, we help you with all of these issues. We monitor your savings, we coordinate any warranty issues. We've not had very many with Yonkers. I think we've had 2 warranty lights in Yonkers out of 11,300. We will help you with inventory or inventory replenishment at the prices you're paying today, as opposed to when you go and purchase 1 or 2 lights, you pay a higher cost because you're purchasing a small volume of lights. We can, through the period of the lease, fix the price to today's price. If the price were to go down for the fixtures to below the price you're paying, you will realize that additional savings, but you will never pay more than what you're paying today. We'll continue to monitor and maintain and update your ConEd database for you. If you say you wanted to change lights on a given street, we'll go in and help you effectuate the savings in your ConEd database. And in this case of Yonkers, we gave them a savings guarantee, and we can offer that to you. What do I mean by a savings guarantee? I mean, if I tell you at the end of the audit you're going to save $100,000 a year, you're saving $100,000 a year. If in year 3 somehow something happens and you're saving $99,000 a year, I owe you $1,000. Now back to what you're saving and paying for the cost out of the energy savings. In the village, you're saving 106. In the town, you're saving almost 43. Your annual payment based on a 7-year lease in the village would be 87,000. In the town would be 27. Note that there's a difference between your savings and the fixed lump sum. That difference is yours. Yours to do whatever you want with. Fix potholes is a common one that everybody tells me they want to do. Redo landscaping, whatever your needs are, you have that money to reappropriate how you like. Yes, the lump sums times the years does increase your cost over the project cost. It reflects our cost of carrying the money for that period of time, which yes is often similar to an interest rate, so to speak. But that is why we offer the services during the lease period. So for the entire 7 years, you will have me at your beck and call. Other choices and considerations in your financing option. So you happen to have $500,000 laying around in the capital budget and you want to spend it on streetlights, that would be fine. But I don't know of any municipality or town or city in the state of New York that happens to have money laying around at their disposal that they don't have a million needs for. There is NYPA financing available for energy efficiency measures. And New Rochelle looked at this and we helped them with the comparison between our financing and NYPA's. NYPA offers a variable rate. It can be anywhere from 1% to 4%. And that sounds really good, but it varies over the course of whatever your financing period is with them. And they charge you administrative fees. In the case of New Rochelle, those administrative fees amounted to an additional 3% of interest. Made their financing and our financing pretty much comparable in terms of real dollars. They add the auto payment to your NYPA bill, so as they automatically take a payment when you pay your streetlight billing. It'll be another line item on there for the loan that you took. Some municipalities have done this for some maybe wastewater treatment plant or water work. And then you have to administer it or watch what they're doing and make sure that if they adjust how much they're charging you, that they're adjusting it properly. You can also use bonding capacity, obviously, assuming you have capacity available, assuming that the availability and the timing of being able to bond works with when you want to do the project. There's also costs for bonding that are a consideration, and the fact that you can also use the bonding for other capital dollars, but you can't necessarily use the savings for. So if you're looking for a creative way to kind of maximize all your financing sources, considering using the energy savings in a lease is a way to do that. Especially in today's tax-free era where the governor doesn't want anybody increasing any taxes under any circumstances. Capital dollars are stretched and bonding capacity can be used to meet many different needs. So those are just considerations for you to think about with the financing. Let's assume you don't do financing. So what happens then? No lease means that you then will have a different cash flow. Rather than wait and pay us out of the savings you generate, you'll have an amount that you would pay on mobilization, amount you'd pay on the completion of the audit, progress payments during each month of installation, which would be approximately 5 months combined for the village and town, and then a final payment when we're done. And the final payment would be adjusted if there's any differences in lights or an inventory you want to have on hand and add to that. So in closing, why Lumen? I think I highlighted the benefits of smoothly moving through the process by using one entity that provides a turnkey comprehensive approach. It also reduces your project risk. You know everything up front as you go in. There's no surprises during the entire process. There's nobody looking at you and saying, well, John Doe did the audit, so I don't know if he did it right, so when I get out there, if I encounter this, then I'm going to do that. It's all in one place. It maximizes your energy savings and expedites your project conversion, like I told you about Dobbs Ferry. They're still struggling with trying to get their system converted. It also minimizes the DPW staff and Paul's time in having to manage us and our process. When you hire it piecemeal, he spends a lot of time managing different pieces. Us, we tell him what we're doing, how we're doing it. He tells us he wants to do something different. We do it differently. So he's really a director. And it makes the best use of his time and your time, quite honestly. You don't pay for anything until we're done, and you can spread the payments out of the energy savings. I want to leave you a couple of closing thoughts on why now. The piggybacking on the volume discount pricing isn't something that's going to last forever. Phillips won't hold their prices forever, so I can't hold them forever. And we use union labor in installing, and those contracts don't necessarily hold forever, as you know from the agenda of your executive session. You can also seize the opportunity to maximize your savings. As we install, you'll start seeing savings. If you start installations in the summer, you'll be done before the end of the year. And you will have a savings this year and savings for years to come. The final photo here is from the grand opening for the installation, a press conference that the mayor of Yonkers held when we installed the last luminaire. Tom Myers, the Commissioner of DPW there, and I'd encourage you to call him if you have any questions about us or our services. And the guy on the end who'll kill me for pointing this out is our wonderful foreman who helps carry all of this off flawlessly in the field. So with that, I'd like to ask you if you have any questions.
Are we gonna continue doing PowerPoint, or can we go back to our seats for questions?
You can go back to your seats.
Right.
Thank you, Heather, that was very exciting, great presentation. One thing I want to point out as we start to develop our questions here, that we've got piecemeal parts of this presentation as we're investigating our own components. So again, we have really all parts of the village participants, if we go forward with this project, in the manager's office, DPW, the street technical know-how, and the finance department. So we'll just develop our questions around that. I can tell you in advance, the main thing that stuck out to Kenny and I, or in this particular presentation, and that's why I said it's a draft now and you'll eventually get a final, is that we know we have more than 32 decorators out there. And that alone is indicative of the level of possible error that's in the Con Ed database. And this type of outfit, it has the connections and the know-how to remedy a lot of the possible overbillings that we've been enduring, because Kenny on his own accord has gone around and reduced wattages of fixtures that he puts in just for that same purpose, and you know, for energy savings. But as you know, we are not metered. We have unit-based billing, and that's what we look to correct. So even though the most expensive fixture, the $1,000 fixture, we only show 32. So if we have 132, that's additional $100,000. We do believe that that could very easily be offset in remediating the errors in the database, and then the operational savings that aren't even part of this presentation that we'll be able to save every year going forward out of Kenny's expenses in the field. So that said, I think it's time for questions from Heather and the group.
Thanks, and all of the board trustees can have questions, and also our friends in the town, I'm sure may have some questions for Heather as well. Anybody on the stage?
Yeah.
Sir?
I've got a couple of questions. Is there any solar option for powering these things? Is that possible? Does it have to be done through a power plant, or can there actually be solar panels on them? I've seen those in municipalities.
There are some different types of lights that do have solar on them. Typically, they're more decorative lights, like a shoebox looking like things in a parking lot. Those do have some solar options. They tend to be a lot more expensive at this point in time because it's not a widely used option. And most of your streetlights are on Con Ed poles and drawing service from Con Ed already.
Okay, that's question one. Question two, where are these fixtures made? Are they made in the United States, or are they made in China?
United States.
They're made here. Okay? And the people who do all this work, are they union members? Is this union work, or is
Yes.
this non-union work?
This is all union work. We use all union labor to install. The Phillips facility is in Little Towns, Pennsylvania. So when you look at the LEED guidelines, it would fall into a regional LEED count category.
Last, I liked all those answers, by the way. Is there a possibility of a corporate, what do you call it, cooperation, grant money from corporations to help offset some kind of collaboration? Like, I know there's General Electric has their headquarters here and a training center, and they have been pretty generous in the past. I'm wondering whether there's an opportunity to get them to pay for some of this.
We've not, New Rochelle or Yonkers did not have as research private grants. We did research public grants that mostly for municipal, because you are a public entity and you're receiving a largely discounted rate on your NIPA power rate, you're not eligible for a lot of the government or government funding type grants for energy savings measures. But we can certainly look into private grants, and I know that Phillips, in their pricing structure for their roadway luminaires, factors in, of course, the public sector aspects of their pricing.
Thank you.
Super. Where, any questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm very excited that we're going to be partnering up with the town and that we're starting a conversation that will really bring us to a new level of savings, but also a new way for us to save some money and be the sustainable town that we want to be. So thank you for being here tonight, Paul. Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. On the financing option, you talked about, obviously we could do it with you. In other words, we could do your arrangement, and it looked based, I think you said the total cost was around $500,000, was that the?
It was around 500 for the project cost and rents.
And then you looked at the total cost with the lease back over 7 years. I think it was close to 600, right?
Yeah, there was around, I think it's around 80 is the difference. To be honest.
Okay.
It's 523 versus
608.
608.
608, so a little over, okay. So, yeah, I mean, I guess, if we decided to go with our own financing option, if we decided to bond it ourselves, I mean, we have a very good bond rating, and, you know, perhaps we could do a little bit better on the interest. You know, would we still get the benefit of all the, you know, I guess of all the services and everything else that you would provide, you know,
Yes.
whether it's, as long as we're engaging with you, it doesn't, as long as you get, I mean, it's better for you if we pay for it that way anyway, you get all your money up front, you don't have to finance it, you don't have to carry the, you know, carry the money over time, which obviously we're paying for anyway, and I understand. I just wanna make sure we'd still get all the support.
Yes, you get all the support through the completion and the final completion of the project. After that then is when any of the benefits from the financing portion or the lease portion would be what you would lose, so to speak.
Oh,
The
so
value.
what you're saying is if we did finance it ourselves and we don't go with the lease, in other words, if part of the benefit of the lease is that we get more extended connection to you
Correct.
and other services.
Right.
So it's a little more, you're saying it's a little more sticky.
Right,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, that's interesting, because
And in the pricing, what I can tell you is in the pricing that we've quoted for the lease option,
right,
factors in financing, at the time we put the New Rochelle proposal together and based on a lot of New Rochelle parameters. So presumably if the Austining has a better credit rating than does, New Rochelle, that would impact, our underlying financing as well. And that may impact our ability to provide you with a better lease cost.
These are estimates in the proposal.
oh,
Well,
okay, I mean, I don't know
I
what
don't
New
know
Rochelle's
anything.
credit rating is, so I wouldn't know. I mean, we have the best rating you can have.
Some of
but
the
I
larger
don't know what they have, so-
municipalities have hiccups.
Okay, well, sure, I mean, we all know it's a tough time financially for municipalities, but we managed to stay the course here. And I guess the other couple of questions I had were really around training, around the implementation and making sure that, our team, understands the technology, has proper training on changing lights, you know, all that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Do you have a whole training program in place? And what
Yes.
did you do with the other municipalities in relationship to that?
We provided training to the DPW staff at Yonkers, and we'll do the same for New Rochelle. And Phillips actually sends some of their technical personnel out from their factory and walks through the lighting and all the parts of it with the entire DPW staff. So they're fully well aware of what all the pieces, parts, and wires do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important when you're moving to new technology that our people internally have the ability to act independently. I mean, I would imagine if we had to ask for your help, you'd probably have to charge us for that, right? I mean, if we
Not
had.
if we had a lease, no.
You really like that lease thing, huh? No, I get the
And
sticky
during
part of
the-
it now after you
during
say
the-
that,
During the
so.
installation part of our service is, during the installation part, we train your staff, we educate them, we work with them. And there will be issues as we go through the installation, there's gonna be poles that don't have Con Ed power to them, and we work with you and Con Ed to get the pole to the power. There's gonna be arms that are loose, that your TPW staff will go out and tighten up. And large share of that is because of union issues. If your DPW staff is unionized, then they have a union contract that says what they're allowed to do and what my union staff are allowed to do. And in Yonkers, we had to be very careful not to cross lines. If your staff isn't unionized, then it gives greater flexibility in how we can help you
They are union.
Yeah, I
effectuate
mean,
changes, but
yes,
yes.
yeah,
So you have to be careful with that. And in Yonkers, it worked very well. And they were very happy, with the training and everything that occurred during the installation phase itself. So they knew what was going on.
And I guess my final question is, why can't we get metered power? We're going to this new thing, I mean, you know, why did they charge us, I mean, that's
In
that's
Westchester, it's
Neanderthal.
based on rated watts, and honestly, from what, the consultant we use that helps us with the GIS mapping, is based out of San Diego. And we asked him if if metered versus rated is any better or different. He says in the end, it all comes out to be the same, or similar, because they do look at the lighting and the hours that lighting is and adjust those annual burn hours on a cycle. So.
Well, what happens when there are, you know, power outages or
You actually receive a 3% credit on your NYPA bill on your Con Ed bill every month for lights that are out or service outages. They just, flat across
they
the
just
board,
build it in?
say 3% is a credit,
I
yeah.
had to tell you,
Now, in the case of,
Con is the laziest bunch of people I've ever, I mean, you know, not for nothing, but
well,
very disappointed
You
to
want
hear
them
that.
to know.
Well, you know,
In
I
the
mean, I'm
case-
sure, I'm not a fan of Con Ed anymore after I said this publicly, you know, you know. It's kind of.
Con Ed is challenging. In Yonkers, they have poles that get knocked down on Central Avenue all the time, either from accidents or whatever. And getting the poles replaced has been challenging. And when we came along and we're trying to install lights on poles that weren't there, that did used to be there, City of Yonkers is gonna be receiving credits for these poles that have been down for long periods of time. So we do work and help you with those adjustments beyond 3%.
And it sounds like you have a good working relationship with Con Ed that will really benefit us through this process if we move forward with it. Thank you.
It's better than you do.
Maybe they have a good relationship.
But just like you said, if you guys have questions.
I have very few choices actually, but thank you, it was a great presentation. I guess after the 7-year, if we do decide to go with the 7-year lease, so to speak, you know, there is gonna be a training process before that and everything else. What happens, let's say, in 10 years from now, we have additional lights added to what we already have? Let's say we add another 10 light poles somewhere within the village or the town. Now we have the GIS already in place. Is that something that we can add to it, or does it mean that we have to ask you to come back and do the additional work and some of the work already being done?
You can add to it however you like. Of course, 10 years from now, technology is gonna be totally different, than it is right now. There'll be little, little units that you wear on you that record your GPS, but, or something similar. But yes, you can add to the GPS system, you can add to any of the databases.
So we'll have the
give you
control to do
are
all
yours,
this
yes.
stuff. I mean, our staff will have all that access to that.
Correct.
Now, is that, when you said that we will have access to that as well, would that mean like, our village, residents will be able to see those maps as well, or it's just for our
If you put them
staff?
in a place you want them to see them, the way the system works during installation is it's a web address that we share with you. And when you click on it, it takes you to a web address at a server that unless you have that link, you're not gonna find. I suppose some hacker somewhere probably could figure out the address, but they're not gonna get access to it with the firewalls that the guy has set up. But you will see, it's a link that I send you so you can see as we proceed through installation. Once it's done, it's a file I give you, and it loads into any GIS system and a Google Earth file.
Okay.
Yeah, just,
Sure,
sorry,
go ahead.
just, so, as you begin to phase in the lights, they're active right away, right? You
Yep.
install them, you put them in, and Dodge your uncle, now you got new light, you
Yeah,
got the new lights.
They're installed during the day and the guys actually cover the photo cell on top,
Okay,
to make sure that they come on, and record any issues that they encounter during installation. Oh, and I should mention that the photo cell on top of the Philips luminaires that we use is a photo cell that they actually test the manufacturing of their lights with. And the two manufacturers cooperate together. So the photo cell also has a 10-year warranty. So you're not gonna have to replace your photo cell either.
okay.
Okay, I have a couple questions, and then I'll invite our friends from the town to, because I'm sure they have questions. I think they, jumping out of their seats to ask.
No,
so-
no.
No? Okay.
I'm very, very sensitive.
One of my questions is probably more for Paul and one's probably more for Tom, but, Heather, please weigh in as appropriate. As I know you've started doing an audit, but it sounds like you've already recognized that we have more than 32 decorative lights, so as you go through this process, you'll update it to be reflective of our reality. I'm also wondering, if we want to, as some neighborhoods have changed or some development has changed, we might want to change the amount of output of light in a particular neighborhood, or we might want to add some poles, for example, what will someday be, Promenade Park at Harbor Square, which we're talking about next. And right now, there's probably not a lot of light there. Is that something that can be done in conjunction with this project now?
Yeah, one of the things we talked about early on is that they come in and when they do their inventory, they're also doing it with, I think there was one slide where they showed the wattages used on Central Avenue and Yonkers versus the residential sections. So they, there's layers of efficiency here. There's layers of efficiency that you get just by strictly replacing the bulb. There's the efficiency, financial efficiency, I guess, if you call it, by adjusting what they might have in their database. I mean, there's stuff that was entered into that database 20, 30 years ago that shows fixtures that use 2, 3, 400 watts that now might use 40, and have never been adjusted because, they were just never adjusted, and that is the biggest culprit in meter issues, not having it metered. But the biggest thing that they do when they do that inventory isn't just that, it's the actual, excuse me if I use the wrong term, but the photometric overlay, the overlay of what wattages what light you're casting on what roads, and how to get the most efficiency. So when they go into an Indian village, if you will, we're not gonna blow it out and light the streets up like we want to do downtown, where you have all your foot traffic, because basically you have maybe a jogger and a car here and there, versus train station traffic and pedestrian traffic all around the downtown area where we might use higher wattages. So they'll do all that overlay for us to really get us what we want, and where we see future development or potential development, we can adjust the wattages there accordingly.
Great. Then I guess since Tom, have you had a chance to hear and ask questions from Heather in advance tonight? So I'm just wondering, would you mind letting us know your opinion of going after bond versus the $500,000 we may have sitting around in our account versus the lease option? Or the
Whatever
type of
say in your
financing
account
I
to
think is
Tom.
better option?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees. We did have a phone conversation to discuss the financing, and oftentimes when we go out to bond and we brag about our 1% bond or our 1% 1-year ban rate, that's all that we really focus on. But we're talking about financing that goes out 7 years, and so it would require a serial bond most likely, because they can only ban it up to 5 years generally. There are fixed costs associated with going to the bond market annually if it were to remain a ban. But generally, we find that investors are not willing to extend that 1% rate out after a year. And so when you're talking about a 7-year bond, you're really talking about interest rates of 2.5% to 3%. So really, the differential between 2.5% and 3% and 4% really isn't very large, and especially when you look at the added services that you get for staying with the financing that they offer. So I really think that the additional amount that you pay for the financing really seems to be offset by the added services that you receive, including guaranteed savings and things like that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anybody from the town, do you want to just come in this empty chair, maybe you can scooch a microphone over, that might be the easiest way for people to.
You could actually just go to the mic, it doesn't matter for that.
One quick question. So if the town and village were to do this project, at the same time, there's no other possible prospective discussion to kind of see a renegotiation of price since we're doing it together, or is this the lowest guaranteed price that we know we had after we've done our research?
you know, there are possibilities as we move forward. You know, the pricing, as I said, is based on New Rochelle. And as we move forward, with the proposal for you as together, we would take that into consideration in working out the financing and the project costs with you.
I just want to thank you. I think that was an excellent presentation that you did. My question is, it piggybacks a little bit on what the mayor said too, but when you have certain situations where you have to take the light away from certain homes, you know, we're gonna go from, I happen to live in Indian Village, everybody knows that. We have very dark streets up there. So all of a sudden these lights are gonna come on. But my big question is, what about our parks? Do you have any solution to change the lighting in our parks, and especially in on our ball fields, which is an extremely expensive proposition? Do you guys do that, or, have you done that in those other communities? Because that's where I would see additional I absolutely see the savings in the streets, right? There's two different lights that we have. We have lights down the roads in the parks, but we also have the ball field lights, so.
We have in New Rochelle and Yonkers, they've had us look at a number of their parking lots, not the structures, but the surface lots, that use Cobra heads, or some of them use shoebox.
Right.
The square lights, that use those. Some of the ballparks and ball fields are in fact metered, they're on a different account, in some cases, depending on how they're structured. But yes, these certainly are solutions that we can look at for LEDs there, and help incorporate those into the project as well.
I think if you're gonna do you know, a whole package, that's very important for us, especially in.
Yeah, we would get, yeah, I would hope we would get some favorable pricing, you know, because we're bundling everything together, so.
Yeah, the other component that we really didn't touch on too much, because it has to be developed, and it really has to be developed after the fact, as we move forward, is when we do the inventory, we know that we have, I'm trying to give you a couple of examples off of, Overton. There's a subdivision there, the new one, doesn't use the Hatco fixture and a decorative fixture that's priced out. So, and there's miscellaneous lights, like down at the train station, those fixtures that we put up, or GDC put up, on our behalf, they are not the Hatco fixture or the Cobra head that we're referred to in the New Rochelle contract that we're piggybacking. But for conversation purposes, over 90%, I'm gonna guesstimate for this presentation, are caught in that New Rochelle bid spec. But there's other miscellaneous lights, and like she said, miscellaneous work that's gonna take place that we're not gonna be able to determine until after the inventory is done. And at that point, yes, those are the types of, I think, economies of scale will get going town village, because they're gonna do that inventory assessment, and we're gonna be negotiating that extra work, if you will, together. The communities are gonna do that together, so we will have a little bit better value.
Because you have all different neighborhoods. If someone constructed, especially in the unincorporated area, constructed a neighborhood, they put in decorative lighting, you know, which is different than the decorative lighting that they have in the village downtown. We have a very high decorative lighting on our North State Road too. So there is different areas that would have to be taken into consideration so that we could get a total package price, you know.
Yeah, that would all occur, like Paul said, during the audit. We would come and say, okay, we would come and say, these are what we're in your inventory, this is what we're finding in the field. You've got these unique fixtures here and those unique fixtures there, what would you like to do with them? These are potential solutions we can offer you, and then we'd always get the best competitive pricing that we can from Philips, because we are designated as a distributor with them. So you're not paying for us to purchase them from a distributor who purchases them from Philips. We are purchasing directly from Philips, so we're getting the best pricing from them.
And my last question is, you would tell us if you thought that some area needed more lighting, or in some cases less lighting?
Yeah.
Less poles, more poles?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does Congressman Wiltshire or wow, I just elevated him. Council members Wiltshire or Jeffrey or Highway Supervisor O'Connor want to come up and ask any questions, please?
No, you first. You're up there. You're Congressman Wiltshire.
Councilmember Wiltshire, please join us. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us.
Happy to have you.
Been quite informative.
I just have a question, and it's, how long do these bulbs, lights supposed to last when you put them in?
18 to 20 years or more. The testing says 18 to 20 years at least.
Okay, then what's supposed to happen to our man that's, changing these bulbs and things now? I know who he is.
I can tell you that your job is very secure. And,
Watch out for you.
I'm just gonna throw this out there so we get more, we didn't present this as a cost savings, but it will be a reoccurring cost savings in our operating budget once it's in place. Every 2 to 3 years, a photo cell goes out, or a bulb goes out at $100, $150 for whatever we're replacing on that particular fixture. Now granted that these fixtures are 2 to 3 times the cost of the other fixtures and the bulb, but the time to go out there and do it, and the replacement of the bulbs and the recurring costs is a number that's not even presented in that, I think it was $87,000 annual savings. So, yeah, and he does lots of other things. So, he's valued.
Because I see him often, and he's, on my street sometimes, and I don't call the village, I just talk to him. But, I was also thinking and wanted to ask if you think, do you have to have, I don't know, an inventory of these lights? Would would the village, have an inventory of them? So, you know, if something go wrong, we have to wait for you, or does they take care of it?
Yeah, that's certainly something that's done during the project process, is how many lights do you want to have on hand in case one gets knocked down or that sort of thing. So that's all part of the contract process.
Thank you, that's it.
This is nice, all of us being together.
It's fun, right?
It is, and thank you for the presentation, it is great and informative. I hope that the lights don't all go out at the same time. 18 years, if they all go out, we'll be in the dark at the same time. I have 2 questions, I think. One is, the amount of money that would cost for the town itself to do it is greatly reduced due to the fact that we have much less lighting. We happen to have some money lying around. So, I would say that only because our beautiful new contract with our police department has done that. Thank you, Austin. So, I am interested in this issue with respect to having to finance versus being able to pay for it if we could. I mean, I'm kind of being tongue-in-cheek about lying around, but if we were able to have the money to pay for it, where does the sticky part come? What is it that we lose in paying up front versus going with a lease? As to Trustee Codman's question.
When we're done installing and you've accepted the project and you've paid us our last final payment, then we go away. We're certainly able to answer questions and available to provide, some services, some of which would be free, some of which would be charged, depending on the level of effort that's involved post the final completion. But if you follow the lease period, we're then there to look at your NIPA bills, make sure you're seeing the savings, make sure your Con Ed database stays up to date, help you with whatever questions or issues that you have going forward through the lease period. And more importantly, if, say, a truck goes down one of your streets and knocks 4 lights down, you can then purchase the replacement fixtures at a bulk rate, as opposed to whatever the price may be for calling up and ordering 4 fixtures from any distributor or electrical contractor.
Does that hold true for, is that lower price hold true if we just decide, let's say a development is established
Yes.
in a community, we still can get that same rate
That
2 years
provision is in
from
the
now
contract.
if you're part of the lease?
That provision is in the draft contract.
Great.
Brad is a great negotiator. He's Mr. What If.
So if one of us wins the lottery and we suddenly find ourselves with so much money that we donate the money to pay for this.
Mhm.
Is there a way to do it in such a way that there's an extra fee for you continuing to provide all the lovely services you would provide if we did it on a lease? So you would just, one of the options that you could present to us is pay for it up front and we go away, lease it and we stay, pay for it up front and there's an extra fee if we also stay.
The support contract.
Right, a support contract, you could do that.
Yeah.
Oh, good, thank you. I'll buy a lot of it.
I noted that there's a big, connection, with Phelps. I don't know anything about LED lights, so I don't know how many different manufacturers there are of them. Is there a small window of people who do this? I'm sorry? It's just Phillips.
No,
What did I say?
There's-
Yeah,
what is the world of competition? Is
Yeah.
that what what is the
Yeah,
world of
what is-
I'm just saying, I don't know the world of competition of LED lighting, and so there was very much about Philips, but I don't know anything about anything that's out
Yeah.
there.
There are a lot of LED lighting manufacturers. We recently at our office converted the inside of our office to LEDs, and the manufacturer of that fixture is trying to sell me his streetlights that are a Datos fixture out of Italy. They use 3 Philips parts and then they just put a casing on it and send it to me. There are a number of other manufacturers as well, some Taiwanese, some Korean, some Chinese that are all manufactured outside the United States. There's a manufacturer, Beta Cree, that assembles theirs in the US in a similar fashion to what Philips does. Their lights are different than ours. There's GE, Cooper, and a number of different manufacturers. But when we started with Yonkers and our proposal at Yonkers, their proposal literally was, we have something like 11,952 streetlights. You need to figure out how to replace them and save us the most money possible, while giving us the best quality of light, similar to what we have and no less, with fixtures that are warranted for 10 years and the financing for 10 years or leasing for 10 years that puts us on the hook for the 10 years with the warranty. When we researched all the fixtures, we looked at highway departments. Of course, New York State Highway Department hasn't yet adopted a standard for LED lighting fixtures. They're still working on it. But a number of highway agencies have, and they really go to 3 that I'm gonna blank the last one, but I know there's Philips, Cooper, and another one that are the standards for most roadway lighting on a lot of highway department work in Jersey and West. And so we looked at those, plus we looked at Beta Cree and a number of the other manufacturers, and we ended up settling on Philips because of the quality of their lights, the energy savings they generated, and that was what got us the Yonkers contract, was the volume of savings that we were generating with the quality of fixture that we were offering.
What did General Electric have?
GE had a fixture that our electrical contractor, my partner Rob Craig, analyzed, so I'm not really conversant with their fixture, but I know we looked at that when we looked at the Beta and the Cooper fixtures all.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've devoted a lot of time to this because it is a very important subject. And I'm really glad that we're looking to partner with the town, and our Harley Town supervisor can ask the questions now.
Thank you. Like Paul, the last few years, I've also been looking at LEDs. I've been to a number of presentations. Associations that I belong to have brought in people from Light Concepts and other organizations that have made presentations. Through our contract that we're using right now for LED lighting for the office, for the highway department, which was completed this morning, and the garage was currently being worked on. I believe they're all right now General Electric, and I brought them this gray bar, and I brought their service division in the street lighting, and they came in with Con Edison, and they made a little dog and pony show to me about their light, and I've seen enough LED lights. When I was in data processing, we used to say you didn't want to be on the leading edge of technology. We called it the bleeding edge of technology. And I deliberately waited a few years before I was gonna go out to shop and look for LED lights for the town. So I'm currently reviewing that with General Electric and with Graybar. I was with a group of people, several weeks ago, we went around, we picked a location. They're going to give us 4 test lights to put at this location. We are in the process of doing our field survey. I understand that Con Edison, and I do know how the building works, having worked with Con Edison, but having been on this side of the tracks too, and I know how the building works and I know how it's measured. So all this being done, I had no knowledge of the depth of this. I knew it was going on, but I didn't know the depth of this presentation of where it was going with the village. I am proceeding with my due diligence to advise the town of, hopefully they'll come in and decide what they want to do and look at it. So right now I am in progress of going forward with an analysis of our street lighting and everything else for the unincorporated area. But this was a great presentation, and congratulations all. It gives us certainly a wonderful starting point, and if we can move forward and cooperate together, that would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to emphasize that we are very interested in getting a proposal and cooperating with the village too. We can look at both things.
So all that said, I know we may, okay.
I have one question.
I just, when I heard you say that in the field, when you replace a fixture, you have the ability to upload the time and date that happens, and that goes to Con Edison immediately. And my question is then, does the savings start to occur immediately? Is the savings on a rolling basis? It's not just like one day we're being billed 100%, and the next day we're being billed at this 68% savings. So is the savings on a rolling basis?
Yes, the two systems aren't exactly interconnected. It's a hand process, a hand enter. So it uploads in our system and we hand enter to Con Ed. But yes, if I install a light today, whether I enter it today or 5 days from now, you're gonna start seeing savings today, and that will reflect in your next month's bill.
Okay.
You're gonna give us copies of your bill each month, and we will verify that.
Okay. And also,
One more thing, in conjunction with that, when they do their inventory, they also have the ability to make, and you have to remind me, Heather, how far you can go back. They can make a retroactive request for savings for items that were misbilled.
the second one is the lead time for the order. How long does it take for the factory, for want of a better word, to fill an order? And I know you said you start by ordering a sort of an estimated number. But if we were gonna order for, say, our inventory, would it take 3 to 4 months for us to get the fixtures in, or?
If you were ordering lights today, it would take 6 to 12 weeks,
Okay.
depending on how their manufacturing's working, to order a light if you ordered off the cuff today.
Thank you.
And the last question is, and forgive my ignorance on how LEDs work, but I have an LED, I have LED lights on my exterior of my house, a floodlight in the back, that I turn on when I, for example, go out to walk the dog and want to run into any skunks, etc. So when I flip it on, I have to actually wait for that light for quite a while for it to get to full light. Is that the kind of light that this is, or?
No.
All right.
There we go.
Village Angela, I know you've been very active involved in this process. Before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to ask or tell us?
I think we've had so many meetings, and I just thank you for the presentations this evening. I found it just as informative as all the other ones. I know we've seen it many times. I thank Paul. We've had a really good time learning all about LEDs, and I think this is a good platform to go to the next process. So I would think that the next step would be for us to maybe discuss it at an upcoming work session, look at the information that we've garnered, and I think we have some recommendations to make to you in terms of the financing and how it could be paid for. So I just thank you very much for coming in. Very, very good presentation. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. And Paul has my email and cell phone number, so if you have any follow-up questions, we certainly have to answer them.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Thank you.
Thank you. So,
Do we need to change the tape as well?
This is actually a new camera, so there's no tape changing. We can just keep going. if you feel like you want to take a
So
break.
we don't get our
Sorry.
our automatic break. Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, but we will come right back. We won't miss a thing.
I will, that's what he definitely.
We're back on?
Yep.
Okay, great. Anybody who's viewing, we turned the cameras off for a moment, but you didn't miss one moment of the action. All right.
All right, so we're going to play a little bit of catch-up. Thank you, that was such an interesting presentation. The next item is on Harbor Square. It's an update in terms of the planning for the park improvements and the other improvements down there, as well as a discussion, brief one on sculptures and different amenities that are going to be installed there. And I'll turn it over to Valerie Monastro, the village planner.
All right, so I'll just be quick and then I'll turn it over to Joe Digaleski. Basically, we actually had an internal meeting today with Paul Fraioli, Al Sirocco, and myself from GDC and our engineering consultant, Rich Melli. Because there's a lot of, as we spoke before, there's a lot of moving parts to this particular project, and so GDC suggested, and we also agreed that it was going to be wise to come back and sort of update the board as to where they are, not only just with the overall construction, but all the other different moving pieces to this project. And then clearly, the other discussion that will be held tonight will be dealing with the gateway sculptures and the sculptures on the site. So I'll turn it over to Joe Digaleski to kind of take you through everything. And
Good evening, Mayor, trustees.
Good evening.
So we're still here, moving along nicely. We've braved the awful winter, and we've continued to raise the project out of the ground. We haven't went away and waited for the groundhog to come back, but we're still there. And as you can see, there's a lot of work, heavy work going on. So now it's time for the rubber to hit the road and start to get some improvements completed, in the park and whatnot this spring. So basically tonight I want to give an overall project status, just quick prelude as to where we are. The residential building obviously under construction. We've got the parking garage substantially up. First half level of residential is in place. And now you'll see the third, fourth, fifth, and so forth levels of residential being put in place. We intend to top out the building sometime in June or July. We have stabilized our restaurant pad. The restaurant permit has been under review by village staff. We anticipate that permit to happen within the next week or so. We're moving right ahead into restaurant construction as well. Martin has now put out for invitation request for proposal to select restaurateurs. So it's very important that obviously we have activity on the restaurant, the shelves going up, because we think very shortly we'll be, anticipate being an interview process. A lot of these site utilities have been installed within the site. We've made our connections to the street. The final one being today was the water service connection. We prepared and secured access to the park and are now preparing to do park improvements. There'll be several things that will occur this year in several stages of the park coming online, so to speak. And Martin would also like to capitalize and coordinate with the village and schedule events for certain things that are going to happen in the park. We're looking at potentially an April, May rising of the gateway sculpture, which will be a coordinated event with the village. And we're looking for a substantial opening of the park sometime, hopefully by early July, which would get us up into about the beach area. And then a fall event, preferably in September, on the fireman sculpture. We have just secured a contract with the artist in Portugal. A lot of communication and whatnot back and forth. But we have secured the contract for the artist to fabricate and build the sculpture in Portugal. And they're going to ship it to the U.S. Dates are to be determined, but we're targeting that September installation for that sculpture on the fireman sculpture. So the restaurant, as I had said, will be under construction here momentarily. We anticipate to have that show up sometime by June or July. It'll go up rather quickly. And then once we secure our restaurant operator, we'll be back to village staff for our interior fit out permitting. We'd like to have the restaurant online by next spring. Goals for the project are to start pre-leasing in February, March, occupancy by next June, first occupancy. Other outside projects that are going on is Valerie and myself are going to be coordinating a meeting with Metro North regarding the Westerly road improvements. And we're going to be doing more detailed plan of what those actually entail. And this June, I'm coordinating with Paul's department, and I'm thinking it's gonna be around June or sometime when school is out, we'll be getting the Snow Nav, water main extension. That'll take approximately a month, month and a half, but I wanted to create as little inconvenience as possible with school buses and I think summer traffic will tend to be lighter, for the community as well. So I think everything's, well underway with the project. And tonight we wanted to circle back, and just to touch on Valerie's meeting. So as we all know, there's a lot of elements in the site plan resolution, the LEDA, business elements that have to be completed, prior to us obtaining occupancy for the residential building. And being that it's only a year and 3 months away, we have to get a jump on that now. So what we're gonna do is probably have monthly coordination meetings or so to start with those technical staff, just to make sure we're on point in completing all those LEDA and site plan resolution items so that we're clear. Because by next June, all these outside elements, including the park and westerly and Snow Nav, et cetera, are to be completed prior to us getting our first CO. So everything's moving along nicely. Tonight we want to step back and take another look at park plans. We did a presentation a couple months back, basically the overall layout, some focus on certain areas of the park. And I know there was some question or those wanted to relook at what this gateway sculpture was actually going to be. So understanding that we're working with a creative artist here, and there's some artistic flair, and it's not necessarily the artist who's doing the rendering. The artist is doing a hand sketch, which is about all they produce, and his creations actually in the field. And then the renderer takes it and tries to formalize it into something that we can see. And to understand how this is going to work, the sculpture is actually in Australia now on the Warrior Road project, or in some ways. He's very hard to get in communication with. But he has done a similar type sculpture in his repertoire. I think it was in New Jersey or New York or down towards the city. He's done a similar gateway type sculpture. This one is pretty substantial. We're talking 40 plus feet high. It'll be about 50 ton of concrete. So it's a very substantial sculpture. Now, how this thing is actually done, it's not fabricated off-site. The sculptor actually works on-site, and he'll dig a form, so to speak, in the ground. And then that's where he does all his work, in brooming, and pouring the concrete, and putting in all his detail work. And then it's basically lifted up into place and set within a larger footing. So this is basically an on-site creation here. It's not something that's going to be brought in parts and then erected. The fireman sculpture, on the other hand, will come in pieces and will be erected on site. So we want to touch base on this sculpture a little bit more, just to be clear on the detail. Leo has some good renderings of this, and has worked a lot with the sculptor himself to get an idea of what's actually going to happen here. So I'm going to turn it over to Leo with his PowerPoint.
Good evening, hello, Mayor and trustees. So like Joe said, so we've come back to discuss the gateway sculpture, which you can see in this rendering here. I wonder if I could jump these slides. There we go, first try. So previously we had, sure. Previously we had a different, a somewhat different sculpture. And what it was is, we had a concept for the sculpture all along that we had discussed with the sculptor. And that was sort of our starting point. As we got deeper into the project, we reviewed it with the sculptor in more detail, and we decided to modify the sculpture for the sculptor's advice, and also to incorporate his artistic sensibilities and flair. So again, you can see that sculpture here, and I have a few renderings to show you with the updated sculpture. So this sculpture is furthest away. This rendering is furthest away, obviously. So here's another, and these are all renderings that we previously had. We simply updated the sculpture. So here goes the gateway sculpture, right? Obviously the riprap, our promenade, our performance circle, the restaurant, and this is the ferry dock. Okay. And here's a close-up during the day. So now, again, this is, as Joe mentioned, this is a rendering of an artist's sculpture. And so this is a computer drawing. It's a lot more difficult for the renderer to really capture the essence of what this sculpture is going to be. So, for example, the renderer is attempting to show that, for example, with this model texture, he's attempting to show that the surface is a somewhat irregular surface due to the fact, as Joe mentioned, that the way this particular artist works, and by the way, his name is Peter Lundberg, and I believe that one of the sculptures Joe was referring to is below the George Washington Bridge in Manhattan. It's off to the side of one of the on ramps. It's actually quite a beautiful sculpture. The way this artist works is he digs out the form in the earth, and then he sets in sort of like a polyethylene plastic or barrier, essentially, which carries the concrete. But in his digging out the form, that's essentially how he sculpts. So his sculpture is not a sculpture of positives. Most people sculpt the positives, right?
Space.
Right, exactly. He's sculpting the negative space or the void. So this is sort of his method, his partie, if you will. And so his sculptures wind up having this very earthy, solid, kind of heavy feel that we like, but we think that makes for an important statement and presence on, for the village of Austin's waterfront. So again, what the renderer is attempting to show, he's trying. We went back and forth on this with him for a number of renderings. So what he's attempting to show is that that's really a rough surface. And even though this still looks, if you look at the overall form, this still looks sort of like a machined piece.
Do you have any images of other sculptures?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So even though this looks sort of like a machined piece, what this is meant to explain is the overall concept and theme or objective of the form. So, for example, I just want to give one other example here, and then I'll get into what's different from this rendering versus the previous renderings that we showed. So, for example, it's hard to see here, but one of the things that he's going to do, which I think he does really, really masterfully, is the interior of this arch is actually a stainless steel. So the outside is concrete, right? And what he does is he fabricates in his shop in Vermont, he fabricates this stainless steel shell out of 16th-inch stainless steel. He hand bends it and sculpts it. And this is probably the only positive sculpture that he does versus sculpting with void. And what he does when he comes into the site and he sculpts the earth, right? He extracts the earth. He puts in his plastic barrier. Then he puts this stainless steel form into the earth, and then he pours his concrete in that, and together they key together between the concrete, the stainless steel, and there will be reinforcing bars inside the sculpture. So again, this looks machined, but it's not going to be machined. It's going to be more of an earthy feel. So one of the changes that we made previously, we had sort of two forms that kind of bisected each other at a point. So we thought that something that always makes a presence on the water, both from the water as well as from land, is light. A lot of people, Martin always says this, but a lot of people like to look at the ocean, right? And they want to be on the ocean. But at nighttime, there's nothing to see. It's all during the day. The beautiful thing about rivers is that rivers have boats often within a given area that one can see from land. And what makes those boats interesting at nighttime is the light. It's the light, the reflection. That's really where the beauty of the nighttime river, in my opinion, as well as in Martin's opinion, comes from. And so we thought that what we would do is we would incorporate a light into the fixture, into the sculpture. So at the top here, at this sort of oculus that we have here, again, we have the stainless steel ring wrapping. And then in the center, the sculptor recommended that he create in collaboration with one of his glass sculptor colleagues, a sort of a custom glass hand-blown glass fixture, light fixture. So at nighttime, this oculus will glow and sort of be a beacon to all of the river of this gateway into the village of Ossipee.
Would it be powered?
It would be powered. We are providing electricity up inside of the fixture, up inside the
So
sculpture.
we need an LED for that.
I actually believe we are proposing LED. It's not going to be a blue one. We'll go with a lower CRI. I beg your pardon, lower Kelvin for the warmth of the fixture. So this is a close-up, and then what we did also just to show, you know, the lighting effect. We had our renderer produce some nighttime renderings.
So it's a very yellowish orangish glow coming off of that LED light there.
Yes, but it also has to do with the glass, and we
Yes,
can change
okay.
that. We can change the kelvins of an LED bulb actually rather easily.
Do we have a blink at Christmas yet?
It could be like,
So here's another shot of it. And again, you can see the oculus glowing here. And additionally, so again, here's that same rendering at nighttime, and you can see we're also proposing to install downlights below the fixture, below the sculpture, casting up onto the sculpture. At which point, and again, it's hard to see here, but they'll be between those downlights, those uplights will be between the sculpture's wings. They will be shooting light up between the sculptures, so the stainless steel will in effect glow at night.
Very nice.
And here goes the oculus glowing. So next I'll move on to the previous part drawings that I had previously presented. This is the last one that happened. Then it goes into that.
No, I mean, of other types, not one.
Oh, yes.
But just to give them a feel.
Yes, from that artist, yeah, there we go.
So these are some of his, now we had specifically asked the artist and he agreed. We told him, we said, listen, you know, this is a formal gateway into the village of Ossipee. So we don't want something as earthy and rough as this, right? This really almost looks like rock formed into this thing. So we told him we want something more formal. So while we want your style, your feel, your signature artistic flair, we want this to be a more formal sculpture. And so even though these are previous works of his, they will be more the gateway sculpture will be more formal, and it will be less rough than this is. So it will be smoother. It won't be as smooth as what we showed on the other rendering, but it will not be as rough as this. He agreed. He thought that the artist concurred with that, and he thought that because it's the gateway into the village, that, you know, from the ferry, that it should have more of a formal feel to it.
Okay.
All right. And I'll just go to the site plan. So again, this is our overall site plan, you know, minus the building and the parking. This is just the public lands, which are to be dedicated public lands. This is the performance circle here. So I have a globe of just that area. This is the ferry pier. And so this is an enlargement of that performance circle, and we're currently proposing this would be the location where we're currently proposing to locate the gateway sculpture. So this is the base of one leg, the base of the other leg, and these two are the uplights casting light upward into the sculpture. That's all I've got.
Okay, very nice.
Great. I had a question about the timing of things and making sure that I really understand the process for creating this archway sculpture. He digs the form into the earth directly adjacent to where it is, and then it just lifts it up 90 degrees? So is this like a one-day project, or like?
It's actually,
when do the commuters get back on the boat?
We discussed it. So we discussed it. We actually discussed this very issue. So we discussed a number of possibilities. One possibility he said at the time is, well, I could build it not necessarily there exactly, right? I could build it a short way off, and we could lift it and then sort of cherry pick it into place.
Mhm.
But then he told us, but it's only gonna take from start to end to do the sculpture, to pour it, it's gonna take a weekend. It's gonna take 1 week.
Three-day operation.
3 day, from beginning until end. And then, at the end, he can tilt it up, but in the interim, we would be providing a path, you know, around and past where it's laying over.
Could be like a temporary walkway connecting people to the
Exactly,
dock.
exactly.
So we're working that out with we went over that today with Valerie, Al, and Paul, that we will need some temporary relocation of the ferry walk. It was nice to do this in the winter time when the boat was closed, but here I am. So anyways, because basically when this thing is excavated, it's near to its site location, and there's a mass footing that's excavated where it sits, and as she's lifted, the large footing is poured. You know, it's 25 by 25 foot footing. It's not small excavation. So we'll provide, obviously, safe and temporary access to relocate the ferry commuters. So we won't have any issues with that. But it's really the first large piece of business that will get done on the park. And as soon as we can get the area, you know, back to being presentable, obviously we're gonna schedule an event that's around this thing.
Well, and also the artist actually mentioned, and I'm not sure if the village will be open to it, but the artist mentioned that this could be an event, you know, he's actually amenable to making an event where he's sculpting this out of the earth. And he invited, you know, it to be an event, and he invited people to come and, you know, sort of interact through that process.
And whether that's a media type event or something where, you know, maybe the mayor and the board come down and, you know, stop in for 15 minutes to meet the sculptor. It could be one of those things, you know.
Yeah, Chris? Well, we can consider what other groups in the community we may want to reach out to be able to participate in that weekend. It could be really interesting.
Very
Reaching out to me. And weather dependent, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions or comments from the board?
In reference to the sculpture or the whole project?
Everything that has been presented tonight, I think, right?
Yeah, well, we're most obviously concerned, because it's an immediate concern of construction, is to get the park underway and under construction. So we did a fairly detailed presentation last time on all the different key elements and components of the park. You know, the overpass, or underneath the overpass area is another key location, and we talked about doing some murals on the abutments and whatnot. You know, that was gonna go out to kind of a RFP charrette type thing with Westchester Arts Council. We're really getting more of a time constraint now because we have to move that park along. So we're in direct contact now with the Westchester Arts Council, and we'll be getting some of their mural artists and whatnot, be doing some sketch plans. I'm sure that'll be another presentation once we have some sketch plan moved ahead with what's going on, you know, with the entryway or what's now the connection point from the rail station to the dock. So there'll be some further treatment in there. So I think when we get to that point, we bring those sketches back in, those concepts back in.
The refinements.
Yeah, but the important thing right now is obviously get the big work underway. And then if there's any other comments on the rest of what you may have seen for the first time tonight, so.
Oh, no, I appreciate the update, and I look forward to the completion and to be able to walk and have a concert there again, so I'm definitely excited for it. My question was for Valerie. Is there a way that I can get a copy of the RFP for the restaurant?
Well, I don't have the RFP for the restaurant, but that's probably something internal.
Yeah, so I mean, the restaurant, you know, Martin has selected, what is it, we have 7 or 8?
Yes.
7 or 8 top Westchester County restaurateurs. And we haven't really gone out to that public, put it with the broker. Yeah, so it hasn't really been it's been an invitation type bid. And, you know, most importantly, we spend a lot of time talking about the restaurant. It's gotta be the right fit for both us and the village. It's gotta be someone, or, you know, a restaurateur who is dedicated to making the space happen. It can't just be something that we unravel on us. So we wanna be very sensitive on the choice we make with that, and it's gotta be the right choice.
Or mom's empanada in Corinth.
You know,
yeah, something like that.
Okay.
You know, and as you can see too, the restaurants, a lot of them take investor finance, and it's very delicate trying to get a restaurant underway just because of the whole economics behind it. So obviously, you know, from our behalf, we'll do whatever it takes to get the restaurateur doing the same to make sure that it happens. So.
And what is your, you had said June or July of the shell up for the restaurant, but the restaurant serving their first meal would be?
We're shooting for next spring, April, May.
Okay, April, May.
You know, that's based on a successful lease, you know, negotiation with the restaurateur, finding the restaurateur. He's gonna take some time to do some design, his own, furnishings, fixtures, and all of his work. And, it's made to coincide with the opening of the overall project as well. So it's timing element. Obviously, we're opening the project release, and we want to have the amenities there as well, and running.
Can I don't recall, how the coordination of the murals started with Westchester Arts. Is there a partnership that we have with them for doing the murals, or is that something that is being funded through, a grant program with Westchester Arts, or?
No, this was something that I believe Martin reached out to the Westchester Arts Council to start with trying to find, artists for the murals.
Well, yeah, I guess if I could just jump in here, we're actually announcing tonight an arts committee for the village, and we'd certainly like to weigh in if we could. I happen to believe that we have a plethora of artistic people here in Ossining, and we would certainly be interested in participating in that.
Yeah, that's definitely perfectly fine. I mean, we're all about finding talent.
Right. I mean, this is something the genesis of this just came forward.
Right.
So it's actually very timely that you're mentioning this. We'd like to get involved.
Local involvement would be great, and so
Okay.
if you want to pass along those things, we can coordinate together. However, I have one individual, Jim Sertable, he's spearheading the artist program here, so I'll be passing.
Please put him in touch with me.
Yeah.
Great.
He's kind of putting that together for me.
I mean, and I think this arts committee would also be a group that would help to talk about the whole event of the artists creating the sculpture and all that other stuff. I mean, one of the things we're trying to do in the village is try to create an environment where there's collaborative arts.
Yeah.
And the types of things that I think that you want to do is really what we want to do as well, so.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of, we have the painting side of the art that's gonna go on within the project. We're also gonna have, some metal created art, welding, cutting, things like that. For instance, the fireman sculpture's coming over, it's coming over in pieces with a schematic. So we're gonna need a local person who's creative and can know how to put this stuff together, who can set that up. And it's not like a typical machine welder or cutter, a steel worker that does this sort of thing. So, we're kind of reaching out now and trying to find out who those people are, so it's a great.
I mean, I think we'll be able to get access to a lot of artistic resources through the arts committee, so.
Yeah, okay.
Great.
Can I ask one question?
Oh, certainly.
May I?
Yes. Come on. Town Supervisor Sue Donnelly. You have to have the town come more often so I can get all of your titles correct.
I just have one question, because you're talking about expediting the park and what have you. And right down, at the edge of the park, there are large mounds of dirt right now, or soil, whatever you want me to call it, I don't care, it's black. Are you planning on removing that, or are you planning on raising that ground up higher? Because again, we're worried about how the difference already in the level of the land between where the Lewis Angle Park is and that park. So I just was down there the other day and I saw these large mounds of earth, and you can tell me that you're taking them out of there.
We are.
Okay.
So basically what you see on the south side of the park right now is topsoil. That was previously used for the cap and the site where we were inactive. So obviously we're not using all that topsoil on the site. So over the course of the next week or so, we'll be taking some of the topsoil out. It's currently, that south area is a staging area. Our big push was to get the restaurant panel opened up. There's only so much space to work in down there. And, I mean, obviously it's gonna get tighter as we go because we wanna try to get this park back online as soon as we can, even though we'll still be continuing construction, next year and whatnot with the building. So, right now, it looks kind of like stuff all over and no one's sure what the end result is.
Well, it looks like you're gonna raise the property up.
From a grade perspective, like for instance where the shade structure was, I don't think that grade is changing much than what it is now, where the slab is. It's probably within 6 inches or so.
It's within, correct.
Of where the shade structure is now, where the
So
concrete slab is.
you're talking about raising it another 6 inches? Possibly?
I think it's within, it might be 6 inches lower, I'm not really exactly sure, but there's no significant grade change is what I'm saying.
I think 6 inches is 6 inches.
Yeah, okay. No, I understand. The issue is obviously to make sure we don't have any ponding or things of that nature in the park as well, because, we don't want any of those concerns. We'd also like to go along here tonight too. I see the 200 Main Street has been reutilized for some banner work and some signage up on 200 Main. I think once we get to a point and we have events maybe coordinated with the village, that can, I don't want to say become a billboard, but we can put some new signage up from time to time about upcoming events or whatever else might be happening. It doesn't have to be just with the waterfront, it could be with whatever.
Yes, at the moment, 200 Main Street is an excellent banner hanger.
Yeah, yeah, so I know
We're
it's not
looking
a
forward
problem.
for other options in the future.
Yeah, okay, so, but anyways, I would like to, from time to time, with some recommendations, coordinate with the village, if there's any events that wanna be advertised, from both parts, you know, we're willing to work with that and, you know, focus on the signage there. I think it's worked great in the past, so, that's about it.
Trustee Guerrero, some more questions? More, you have any other questions?
The light, the,
4 foot diameter, 3 foot?
no, the Oculus itself, I think, if I remember correctly, it's about 2 feet in diameter.
Really? Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sally, you've been very instrumental in this all the way through. Is there anything you wanted to let us know before we wrap up on
No,
this
I just
topic?
wanna make sure that everyone is good with the sculpture and everything, because, you know, that's
Lovely.
where they're planning to move forward with, and then you'll start seeing that in
Yeah.
a few months, being constructed. So,
Very nice. Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
very
Thank
much,
you.
Joe. Yeah.
Thank you for coming in. So we're gonna jump right ahead to the next item on the agenda, which is 2014 year-end closeout. We're happy that we were able to have another successful financial year in 2014. And so we will ask the treasurer to come forward, Tom Warren, to discuss the fiscal year review for 2014. And we're gonna combine that with the following item, which is the budget modifications, which are accompany the year-end close and will be on your agenda for next week. So Tom, if you wanna go right ahead with the 2014 close.
Good evening again, Mayor and members of the Board of Trustees. Before we talk about 2014, the manager had sent out an email advising that we were going to talk about the snow budget in 2015, and I asked Paul if he could stick around in case there's any questions. There's a 2-page printout that's being passed around that says snow budget up on the top. And the top page are the year-to-date expenses for 2015, as well as over on the right side, the complete fiscal year expenses for the years 2012, 13, and 14 for comparative purposes. And then the second page is data for just the first 4 months of the year for comparative purposes, 2012 to 2014, as well as the current year-to-date for 2015. So I guess really the top page is more important, and this was updated as of today. The most recent snow, the salt purchase was booked, and also the latest overtime that's on this week's payroll that includes until last week is posted. I think that additional overtime, like maybe tomorrow morning, doing some of the cleanup around the village, will continue to be charged to the snow budget. But the bad news is that so far we're about $31,000 over budget on just the overtime budget line. We had budgeted $115,000 for the year. We're at about $146,000, and also down below the budget line that's for abrasives and chemicals. We budgeted $130,000, and already we're in excess of $141,000. And as you look at the comparative numbers to the right for 2014, 13, and 12, you can see that this year, as you know, it was a much harsher winter, and so the expenses are going to be higher in 2015 than they've been in the past years. And this morning when I was talking with the village manager, we were trying to estimate how much additional expense it might be for the balance of the year, and I know that's always difficult, but part of it was looking at, you know, where the first part of the year expenses are for the first 4 months, and then looking at the expenses for like November to December. So we estimate that there's probably gonna be, for the balance of the year, maybe $40,000 to $50,000 in overtime for snow removal, and probably at least $30,000 more for purchase of salt. So one of the items that Richard had asked was like, okay, where are we gonna find this money? And right now, really the only place to find it right now seems to be in the contingency account. So I'm not gonna present a budget modification for you now, but I keep track of like where we are in terms of contingency. We started the year at $270,000, and then we had a small budget modification for the Mind Mixer software. But I'm going to tentatively earmark $70,000 for snow removal. So as additional projects come up during the year, and we look at the amount that's available in contingency, this will be listed on my sheet as a possible use of contingency for the year.
So that takes us down below the $200,000 contingency budget?
Yeah, it takes us down to $200,000, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well,
So
one
it is.
quarter of the way through the year, that's about right. Look at it optimistically, if we plan to spend the entire contingency budget for the year.
Yep. So,
Okay, so now we'll.
2012 was nice.
Yes, and people back.
Okay, well,
It didn't snow that winter.
Yeah, I guess not.
we're looking forward.
All right, what's next?
All right, so now I'd like to do a quick review of 2014 finances, and that was the one sheet with the numbers on it. I kind of set this up similar to what the auditors present to you and walk through with you with the auditor report. And I put boxes around the important numbers to highlight. And right now, part of the game is, I call it window dressing every year, is trying to balance the budget to make it look good for the auditors and for the auditor report. Right now, as of today, there's enough money in the budget to balance all the appropriation accounts, but I'd like to appropriate some additional monies, some additional excess revenues to receive for some of the more problematic accounts, which will actually reduce the variance between modified budget and actual revenues and modified budgets and actual expenditures. And so that's what I just wanted to run through you on the sheet. Right now, including the $110,000 that included in budget modification last week, we're at about $588,000 excess revenues for the year. And I did want to kind of run through some of those quickly for you, where we had good experience on the revenues.
She knows about it, Christine.
Every year, I talk to you about that 60-day window for calculating our deferred property taxes, and this year, the good news is that we're going to recoup $137,000 of prior year taxes, so, that's a positive excess monies that were received by the village for 2014. We've been talking about the sales tax being about $150,000 more than what was originally budgeted, but in the budget modification I sent out last Friday, we were using, I think $110,000 of that for excess electricity expenses for the year. Also, our gross utilities tax and cable franchise fee revenues are about $23,000 and $27,000 respectively more than budgeted for the year. Recreation department, departmental income was about $29,000 more than budgeted. That was one of the budget modifications that I submitted to you on Friday to help balance the recreation department budget. And we also had the very good variance in the building permit line for the Harbor Square project. For the year, the revenues are about $372,000, and we budgeted $150,000. So there's $220,000 extra revenues, which one of the budget modifications I'm going to mention to you tonight, I'd like to appropriate a good portion of that to help balance the police department budget. And also court fines and fees was actually more than what we budgeted. We've been reducing the estimated revenue for a couple of years in a row. We're down to $420,000. The actual amount for the year was $443,000 almost, so there was some excess revenue there. And also the insurance recoveries, because we're self-insured and we have this stop-loss insurance policy for extraordinary excessive health insurance expenses, we did receive $945,000 this year. Part of that was really for prior year, so I'm only proposing using $775,000 of that amount to help balance the budget for some of our health insurance expenses, because this really is reimbursement of expenses that we've already incurred and recorded on the county records. So that being said, back to this Excel worksheet. With the budget modifications that I'm submitting for adoption next week, we're going to show excess revenues of about $303,000 more than what's in the modified budget. The expenditures will show about $460,000 less than what was in the modified budget. And then, of course, moving down the page, we have the additional revenues that came in for the stop-loss insurance, but overall, the amount of surplus that's going back to fund balance, we're anticipating is going to be about $928,000. So, you know, it's always a good sign when we generate enough excess revenues and we save enough money on the appropriation side in order to recoup and replenish the appropriated fund balance back into fund balance. So, you know, that's happening this year. We appropriated $650,000 in the 2014 budget to reduce taxes, and we're bringing back in $928,000. So the net difference is that fund balance should increase about $300,000 for the year. So I think it's good news, even though on these budget modifications we had some extraordinary expenses this year. Electricity costs were much higher than what we had put in the budget. Heating expenses for the heating oil was more than what we had budgeted. We had extraordinary overtime in the police department because of the murder investigation, and also there was some overtime for the court security detail that the police department is doing on behalf of the town and billing the town for that charge. So that's extra revenue coming back. And of course, we did have some snow removal expenses and such. So I did pass out the latest memo, which I did update again today. I think as of last night, did another version arrive last night that may have had up to numbers 8 or 9. But you know, number one was this stop-loss insurance, which I already talked about. Number 2 was the electricity expenses, which I wanted to, you know, make all the departments whole on the excess extraordinary electricity expenses from excess sales tax revenues, so that we could really tell how the departments did if we ignored the utility costs, also the heat expenses. One of them is to take that $30,000 study for the case study that the board had authorized. We had thought that we were going to have a capital project established, but we didn't go that route. It was just a one-time expense, so we're just showing it as a direct expense in the trustee's budget line, and we're just doing a budget modification to move the budget to pay for the expense. I already mentioned the $29,000 in excess departmental income from the recreation program. There's an item here for PEG expenses. We have you know, we receive money from the cable companies for PEG access that had to be spent for capital purposes. We have a excess reserve for the money that we don't spend, and this year we did spend a little bit more than the $30,000 that we put in the budget, so I need to do a budget modification to make that line whole. And then there is an adjustment here for the Section 8 fund. The important thing to understand about the Section 8 fund is that we had a $200,000 accumulated surplus as of the end of 2013 that HUD said has to be used and spent down on voucher payments for the Section 8 tenants. So they actually stopped paying us for a little while during the year in order for us to spend down this $200,000. So basically we have no fund balance now, and every month as we make our Section 8 payments to the landlords, we have to make sure that, you know, we have the cash flow coming in from HUD.
So, Tom, does that mean we're carrying the float for HUD? We have to wait, in other words, we have to pay it out?
Well, we're not really carrying a float because they send us the money on the 1st, and we send out the checks on like the 3rd. And we hope that we don't have new add-on tenants that require us to pay the money in advance of HUD. It's a real problem, and Maryland has been working with HUD to make sure that, you know, if we do have new tenants that we sign up, that they're going to send us additional money. So we're not trying to subsidize the program.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you know, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, it just seems a shame that they made us pay down the surplus when we could have just, I mean, I could see giving us a little cushion, that's all. Because there are gonna be unusual circumstances where we might have to pay out and we're gonna have to wait to get reimbursed. I don't know, it just doesn't seem, yeah, we discussed it during the budget. We discussed it during the budget, it's what it is.
It seems to be working pretty much on a cash flow basis.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks,
Are there other things, do you want to point out some of the other important topics, because you have quite a list here?
You know, we have to make an estimate of the retroactive contract for the police. That money's in contingency, so it's being moved. They needed to balance the bond account for the tax surety claims that was issued. Starting on number 10, that's new today. The police department budget needed $210,000, mostly for the overtime. As I, you know, and I mentioned the reasons for those already. Numbers 11 deals with snow removal expenses for 2014, and also because of all the sidewalk work that was done during the year, the general fund was getting up about $25,000. So there's $75,000 there that I had mentioned earlier that I'd like to utilize some of the building permit income for that purpose. And then there's about $171,000 that I'm asking to be transferred from contingency to some of the other accounts to help balance the budget.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Don. Nicely done.
Richard, I know you've been keeping an eye on, and then reaching out to Tom to keep an eye on our snow budget. That certainly has been the expense that I know we try to budget as carefully as possible, looking back over recent years, and we can see that what we anticipated for this year was more than some years, less than other years, and obviously when it snows every single weekend all winter long, we have a lot of overtime. And I'm grateful for this comprehensive look at all of the different pieces that go into all of the work that has had to be done this season. So thanks for bringing this forward along with all the other.
So we're gonna do these at the next legislative session?
Yes, for next week.
So all the ones named?
Yeah. Okay, Tom, thank you so
If
much.
you have any questions, since some of those you can see for the first time, by all means, feel free to ask them.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much.
So, Tom, thank you so much. And the salient bottom line is that you know, you used monies towards the 2015 budget. However, you ended up at 14, and you still ended up with a little more. So you're continuing to you know, increase your fund balance, even if in small increments. But it's the better way to go. So, okay, Tom, thank you. So the next item, I turn back to the mayor and Trustee Codman for discussion of the Arts Committee appointments.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to interview candidates with Trustee Codman, but really it's going to be his show, so I'll John take the lead.
Yeah, so very excited to announce tonight that we are going to form the Arts Committee as we had agreed to last year. We're going to have, we had 8 people come forward, many of whom are people that, individuals that have been very present in our community in numerous different art forms, whether they're performing arts or visual arts and the like. And we have some other folks that have some other gifts and skills. So I'm happy to announce the members of the committee tonight, of which there are 8. Nicole Monet, Aaron Lair, Jessica Irons, Alan Luckwin, Robert Stava, Mike Risco, Henry Welt, and Alan Marzelli. I'm very excited to bring this group of people together. I think that all of them have many gifts and have spent many hours contributing to our community, and I'm thinking that the sum of the parts could be very, very big and very great here. So I'm excited to work with this great group of people, and I think we've already found some purposes tonight with you know, some of the arts activity that's going to be taking place on our waterfront, and but it's going to be a great engagement. We don't have a statement of purpose yet, but that's going to be our first task when we get together, and I'll be reporting back to the board as we go forward. So very excited.
We randomly selected who would be like a 1-year appointment, who would be a 2-year appointment, that kind of thing. And so I think we'd like to, for our next legislative session, to officially and to present a resolution to officially name these members, and we'll you know, clarify by email over the next couple of days the expiration date for each of those terms.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Congratulations, well done.
We did.
We did. We did that.
We did it randomly.
Yeah, it was very random. Yeah, the way we did that.
So it was an electronic coin.
That's fine.
Alrighty, next item, Lori, turn it over to council for an update on the local law number 1 for 2015.
Thank you. As you know, you conducted a public hearing on local law number 1, and then we are required then to deliberate on whether you would like to move forward on proposed local law number 1 and make it in fact a local law to put in your code. And I provided that opportunity for you tonight to talk about any changes or revisions or how you would like to proceed.
I'm very happy. I won't change a thing. I'm very happy.
Wow.
That's a first.
We're all stunned. But
Well, we've looked at this a number of times, and we've had a public hearing on it, and we've all had opportunity to review it, and it's not a terribly lengthy or an in-depth law, and it's a very functional.
Necessary evil, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Would you like the resolution approving the local law to put on the next
That would be
agenda?
yes,
terrific.
please.
Thank you.
Please.
You got it.
Yay.
Okay, very good. The last item on the public portion of the meeting's agenda is the trustee liaison reports. Turn it back to the chair.
Okay, I will allow trustee Jariah, would you like to get started? I know you've been preparing.
I can do that. It's in my phone, so I'm trying to take a lesson from Mr. Codman and try to be less papery.
Thank you, Bob.
Is that even a word? Sorry, papery.
The trees, thank you.
So, first, I had a really long and terrific conversation with Captain Nick Franzoso from the OVAC. And so, this is my longest report. From ALS and BLS ambulance service in the town and village of Ossining, as well as they cover the west end of Newcastle and the tri-community agreement, which is Croton, Briarcliff, and Sleepy Hollow. They have they call it the ALS Flycatcher system, and essentially it's EMS services that rush out to these communities when anything happens, and Ossining provides all that coverage. So they provide the EMT staffing for Croton, Sleepy Hollow, and Briarcliff Manor, as well as Ossining. OVAC has 115 members, both volunteer and career. There are 26 medics, 2 of them are volunteer. There are 58 EMTs, 19 of them are volunteer. And there are 22 active volunteer first responder aiders. They run an ALS ambulance, a BLS ambulance, an overnight volunteer EMT, using one of those fly trucks, plus the fly truck for Croton-on-Hudson and for Sleepy Hollow. So they're very, very busy. And they're also very, very self-sufficient because they bring in revenue from these contracts. So they are pretty extraordinary and very, very, very self-sufficient. They don't need much. What they do need is members. They need more volunteers. And so anyone who would like to be involved with OVAC can call 914-487-3091 for volunteer membership or for employment if you're an EMT or would like to be an EMT. They provide the training. Next committee is the...
Before you move on, can I give a little shout out to Nick Francoso?
Please do.
You're probably aware of this, but
the award.
Yes.
Thank you.
You go ahead.
Okay, you do.
Okay. He is being awarded as a healthcare hero from Westchester Magazine. This honor is bestowed upon individuals who are shining examples of community service, patient concern, and leadership in the healthcare field. And he's going to be recognized in the May issue, and we're all very, very pleased for him and thrilled that he's been recognized for this honor. I think it was Supervisor Donald.
Thank you for
We're
that
all very
reminder.
grateful.
Yeah. Okay, I also have the Ambulance District Oversight Committee. They meet quarterly, and they handle budget oversight, address training and coverage concerns for all the stakeholders involved in the contracting and who receive services through OVAC. Their next meeting is April 16th at 7 p.m. here. I'll be there for that. I'm excited about it. GoTV. We had a great meeting with Mayor Garrity, Craig from our IT department, Christina, Tom and Dale from finance, to talk about the coverage for video of our meetings and possibly expanding that coverage. We know that the town is going to be televising their planning meetings, so we're looking at that as well. And using some of the money that we get from the cable companies that can only be used for capital expenditures. You know, we can't do projects with it, we can just buy stuff. And the stuff you buy are cameras and audio gear and switches and whatnot, and so we're working together to get more gear and be able to make this room more user-friendly for making television coverage of these meetings and perhaps other uses to benefit the public, as well as making things better for the meetings in the courthouse. And they've already purchased the gear for over at the Operations Center to cover meetings there if we decide to go forward with broadcasting the planning meetings and other committee meetings like that. And that's an ongoing discussion that we haven't made a decision yet. The Waterfront Vision Committee. I'm very excited about this standing up of this. And the new look for the Waterfront Vision Committee is the people who actually are on the waterfront. And so far, Sandy Mace, who's the immediate past Commodore of Chattahoochee Yacht Club, has stepped up. Joe DeMarchese from Westerly Marina. Liz Feldman, the current Commodore of the Austin Boat and Canoe Club. Don Elmendorf, who's the local division commander for the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary up and down the Hudson. I had a conversation with Dan Shapley at Riverkeeper, and they're going to provide somebody, but they haven't decided which person on their staff that this falls to. But also exciting, and happened after my report got written today. Joe, how do you say his last name? No, from Ginsburg. Huh? Joe Gigaleski, who is a vice president at Ginsburg, doing the waterfront project. He's going to sit on the committee. I'm very excited that he said yes. We're looking to get the family that owns the last piece of waterfront property north of Chatham. I'm going to be talking to them this week, and we have to discuss whether we should ask there to be a town liaison to this committee. And I would like to get permission to talk to our recreation director to have him sit on it.
Of course.
So And what do you think about having someone, a town liaison, since they own a big chunk of the park?
And anybody who wants to be a constructive part of
Okay.
figuring how to
I
make
didn't
the
wanna
waterfront
ask without
function well, I
asking.
think is great.
So that's what's coming up with this. We're gonna get the last 3 sets of stakeholders, and we will now have a new ongoing committee. I'm
Did you
excited
get a
about
chance to talk to, the owners of the boathouse?
I have a call into to Val and Lori, and I'm gonna be talking to them this week, as well. I'm sorry, it's on my list. Boating safety and marine environmental protection. The Riverkeeper and the US Coast Guard will both have booths on Saturday, April 18th at the Earth Day event. And there's gonna be, some meetings at further cooperation, not only between the Coast Guard and Riverkeeper, but also with the Army Corps of Engineers and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. So we're moving that along.
Great. I'll just give a little shout out to what you were referring to. The Earth Day Festival is organized by Green Ossining, so anybody who wants more information, if you want to have a booth, I think it's $10 to have a booth for the day for exhibitors, if you're a small business or an organization like this that would be of interest to folks at the Earth Day Festival, go to greenossining.org.
Excellent. Civilian Police Complaint Review Board. I am proud to say there's not been a single complaint so far in 2015. So this is the one committee where having nothing to do is a good thing.
Right.
To put it in perspective, folks, in the 13 years that this board has been established, they've reviewed 164 complaints, and only 7 of them have been substantiated over the time. The number of complaints each year has been dropping, and that's a really good thing. We have absolutely one of the finest police departments in New York State. Ossining was just named for the 2nd year in a row one of the top safest 100 places to live in the United States, and there's only one other New York State municipality that's on that list. What is it, man?
It was Long Island, I can't remember the
Someplace on Long Island.
And you say it was the third consecutive year? Very good.
3rd consecutive year that we made that list.
Great.
I couldn't be prouder. And finally, let's see. You know, I think, I had a nice chat with Omar. Omar is my backup on the voucher committee. To remind everybody, not a single dime of your taxpayer dollars gets spent without this village board reviewing it and signing off on it before any money gets spent. So we have the budget process, we have all the oversight, and then finally we sign off before anybody gets paid. Omar's gonna be the backup on that. He got the overview. I'm gonna schedule a time for him to sit with me and do the vouchers with me. I'm very excited about that. So we're in good shape. That's everything.
Great.
Thank you for that,
Trustee
Bob.
Guerrero.
Thank you. My first report is for the Downtown Economic Development Committee. Myself and Mayor Garrity and Village Manager Lyons have been interviewing 2 potential candidates for the Committee of Downtown Economic Development, and we will be making a decision soon and announcing that. I am also in the process of scheduling a meeting with Downtown Manager Ingrid Richards to get a better idea of her progress and goals and action plan for the next year. Greater Austin Chamber of Commerce, congratulations, as you've probably seen all over the news and on Facebook, to Waffle Cafe. They have been named the winner of the 2005 Neighborhood to Nation Recipe Contest. They will be coming home with a $40,000 check and a $10,000 check that was presented to them last week to the charity of their choice. So congratulations to all of them.
Yeah, nicely done.
I spoke to Chamber President Gail Marchica. The Chamber is working on the following: 35 annual Ossining Village Fair. They're accepting sponsorships, and spaces are now also for sale. They're seeking morning volunteers, and you can get all the information by visiting www.ossiningchamber.org or calling 941-0009. Save the date. The 2nd annual Lobster Fest is scheduled for Saturday, August 29th. It seems far away, but it's right around the corner at the Boat and Canoe Club. Last year's event was sold out, and I was the guy who had to run to Stop and Shop at 8 o'clock to ask for 60 lobsters. The Chamber helped out their own member, Bella Maya Spa, in celebrating their 1-year anniversary, and had a great turnout and celebration. And also, the Chamber has also been involved in meetings and events with the Sing Sing Prison Museum, and will be attending the meeting this week. I will be attending the Westchester Municipal Officials Association dinner tomorrow night, and I look forward to meeting everyone there and giving the board an update on that meeting. I attended the Neighbors Link Exploratory Committee meeting with Mayor Garrity last Friday, March 6th, and I'm in the process of scheduling a meeting with the executive director to get a better understanding of what they have done and how this board could help and be of any use. The historic Hudson River towns. I sent an introductory intro letter to all the reps of the organizations and agencies that I've been assigned to, and I requested a meeting, so I look forward to meeting with Jerry Fiella and possibly some other team members to discuss how the village can continue to partner up with Hudson River towns. Bob touched on, Trustee Durayo touched on the voucher review. Thank you, Bob. I spoke to Alice Josel, the coordinator of Communities That Care, and I will be attending their March 23rd quarterly meeting. I will also be having a personal meeting with Alice Josel, the coordinator, beforehand to see how we could work together, such as our suicide prevention workshops that have been going on the past 2 months. Last one, Westchester County. County Legislator Catherine Borgia will be starting her Coffee with the Legislator events that occur every spring. The Ossining event will be held on Saturday, May 2nd at the Portuguese Cafe on Main Street from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And you probably saw in the news last week that the Democratic Caucus has announced full support of Governor Cuomo's sexual assault policy bill. Other areas that they're working on as far as bills and legislation for this year go on the investigation of e-cigarettes and possible policy changes to, as you probably heard, the big debate of making them on the same level as any other tobacco products. Thus, you wouldn't be able to actually use them inside, and a couple of other areas. You could learn about all the bills and possible legislation and policy changes at westchesterlegislators.com. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Codman. Yeah, there's a lot happening.
I wanted to bring something up that we had a citizen concern about fees, and so this is really directly involving the Rec Advisory Board, which met on Monday. We had an individual come to us with regards to senior swimming and pool access. And last year, we made some decisions for 2015 to change some of the fees related to recreation activities. One of the things that we did was we raised the fee for just the rec card from $5 to $10. And then we also added a pool access fee for the free swim. This particular individual is a senior citizen, and he's not really interested in the general pool swim access. He's really only interested in the senior access. And so he came forward and said, hey, I'm not really using the pool the rest of the time. I pay $1 every time I go to the senior swim. Why do I have to pay the $15 pool access if I'm not going to use it? So the Rec Advisory Board, sort of considered that, and I think they came to the same conclusion, really, that if a senior is not going to use the regular free swim time, why should they have to pay the $15 fee? It doesn't make any sense. If they're only gonna go to the senior swim and they pay $1 every time they go anyway, they're certainly gonna pay more than $15. But the point is why would they pay for something that they don't use?
Do we need a consensus on that to make a change? How does that work?
It is a change in a fee. The fees were something that we deliberated on as part of our budget process. And we did have a legislative action, I believe, with regards to the fees. So yeah, I think if we were gonna change the policy, we would have to have some kind of legislative action.
Can you do that, Lori?
Before we go down that road, I just want to clarify. What was Chris Soy the superintendent of the rec at the meeting on Monday night?
Yes, he was. Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Good. Because one way to interpret the way the fee structure is, I think, is that $1 that seniors pay during that special senior swim time also is toward a class that takes place during that exclusive senior swim time. And so it could be interpreted as that's a program fee. So just like, you know, the example that I used is my kids take swim classes at the pool and we pay for their swim classes, but we never use the open swim, so we don't have the open swim fee. So if it's just a matter of no longer requiring a prerequisite for the senior swim time that somebody has the open swim fee paid and they're simply using the senior swim time with $1 each time, then I don't think it would necessarily require us, because we're not waiving the fee. If there's somebody
No.
who's 70 years old and they want to come to open swim every single time the pool is available, they'll still pay the fee as it's set up. It's a matter of to use this exclusive senior swim time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a time that only senior, and the $1 fee does, I mean, they can either choose to take that special class or they can just choose to swim.
Right.
I mean, that's the way it is. If you pay the $1, you can take advantage of that class activity, or you can just swim laps if you want.
So we just need to reiterate that that's a program fee, and that the $15 fee is not required.
So if that's the consensus of the board, let us just look at the, we'll look at the fee schedule, and if you need a resolution to amend it, we'll put it on for next week. How's that?
Thank you very much.
But it was a good meeting for the Rec Advisory Board. Chris just published all the spring and summer activities. Beautiful. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it, but he really shined it up a bit. A little polish, some nice color, changed some formatting. I think the presentation was great, and you know, I had a nice conversation with Chris just talking about how he's settling in, and I think, you know, he really wants to kind of cycle through the year and kind of experience everything for the first time. Said everybody's been helpful, staff's been great. He's had a couple people out, but they've been able to kind of take care of things. But otherwise, things are going well, and the Rec Advisory Board is doing great. It's a great group of people, a lot of experience, and it's good to be with them. We have a new fire truck. It's not in service yet, but I think Donnie's going to take it for a drive tomorrow. But at this point, we're trying to get all the driver training done because we have to make sure everybody knows how to drive it. I think Donnie and one of the other guys, one of the captains, have, you know, the most hours of experience now. But before we put the truck into service, we have to make sure we've got plenty of experienced drivers and people who are able to drive the vehicle. It is a remarkable piece of machinery. It's beautifully designed. There's going to be a lot of great equipment. Every single inch of space is used on that truck. It actually has 2 jaws of life that you can run off the thing. So it's really, from a rescue perspective, I mean, and Cataract has the highest response rate in the department. That's the vehicle that goes out usually most of the time before all the others. So I expected to see a lot of service. So that's pretty much it. I was going to meet with the chiefs the end of last month, but we had a bunch of things come up, and we just, you know, fires and
You've been very busy.
other things going on. Yeah, the department has really, you know, there's building collapses and streets collapsing and all kinds of things going on. You know, Matt, I give Matt credit, Matt Scaruzzo, he really stepped into it being the head guy this year. But so far so good, everybody's doing well. I wanted to just mention the EAC. We were going to be meeting for an LWRP last week, but I guess we got snowed out. And but now we're going to have a joint meeting with Solarize Westchester on the 23rd on a Monday night. So we're excited to have that presentation and looking forward to that. I had an interesting conversation with Karen Tour from IFCA, and they're doing some really exciting things with energy savings for their buildings. They're gonna get some grant money. It's really the same as the Energize Austin thing. It's really no different, but it's for their buildings, and they expect to see some great improvements to their buildings. They're going to really tighten up the envelopes. They're going to save a lot of energy, and they're going to save a bunch of money, and it's really a great thing. The other thing that IFCA's done that they're really excited about is the whole volunteer tax program. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but if you are eligible, you can get your taxes done, And it's really a great program. It's actually something that I participated in many, many, many years ago when I was in college up in Vermont. And you know, it has a huge benefit for people who really are sort of either just can't do their taxes or not able to do it. A lot of them are eligible for significant amounts of money, and it's really a great program that IFCA's doing. And of course, you know, they continue to do all their work with managing our affordable housing program and everything else. I think Karen's a great addition to IFCA, and I think she's going to really raise the profile of that very, very important organization, you know, within our community. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Trustee Quesada.
Sure. Almost the last one. A couple things. The Historic Preservation Commission, actually, we met sort of, it feels like we met twice this month, but we didn't. It was more like a late meeting last month and an early meeting this week, actually. A couple applications going on in there, nothing crazy, small things going on in regards to the application part. Something that is very exciting that has been going on now for so 3 years within the works, and with the help of Valerie, is getting to the point that I think hopefully by the end of the year we'll have that completed, which is that the historic signage around the village and historic buildings. So that is coming. I think it's almost to the end where it's ready to go to the designer of the plaques itself, and after that should be smooth sailing. I hope. I know Laura Lee has to do some easements work on our regards. So and a contract. Correct. So, but that one should be done. I'm hoping everything should be completed within this year. So that is exciting in that end. The Historic Sing Sing Museum. Actually, there was a presentation in Golden Canoe Club at the beginning of this month. Some people from Eastern State Penitentiary came over and did a presentation, and another mayor and a couple other people worked at Sing Sing Prison early that day, which I would have loved to be part of that, but fortunately they had to work that day. Anyway, so it was a great presentation in comparison to what they did in Philadelphia, and had to struggle through the years to get it to the point where it is now, which is amazing. So that's something that I know they're going to be try to work together with what we try to do here in our prison to get the museum going as well. So that, the Landlord-Tenant Relations Council, I think we have to meet pretty soon. There's some couple small issues that we need to look at, so the mayor and myself, and we have to call that out. The police department, as you heard early, and been hearing that from me for a couple months, or for at least a couple weeks now. They are working in a lot of different projects, and a couple of them are being the Coffee with the Cop. We are going to be doing a version in Spanish as well. So that they have to set up the date in that regards. So that should be. Yes. Yeah. Correct, Bob. Café con la Policía. It was interesting that Omar and the mayor was also part of the Neighbors Link meeting last Friday. That was at noon. I actually got a chance to go to the one in the afternoon, the library. So it was pretty informative. I have talked to some of the people there sometime last year as well. So I'm very excited at that project. And I also introduced myself, and I said, whatever as a board we can do, I think, at least I said I'll be able to help. So I hope the board feels the same way in that regards. IFCA, and actually it was funny because I was talking to a couple of members in IFCA, and they are doing a lot of renovations on their properties. And actually today, my property is right across the street from one of the IFCA houses, and they were, I think they were getting an audit for one of the programs that you have. Which one was it? Solarize? It wasn't Solarize. It was Energy something. I can't remember
the name of the company.
Yeah, the name of the company. It was a vehicle going into the property, and I figured that.
Right.
It
We're probably not supposed to name. We probably
yeah,
should
no,
name the vendor.
Anyway, so they were doing that, and I know they're doing some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So that is coming. I'm not sure if do you think it's appropriate to do that Ecuador Yeah?
Good,
Alright. This,
Me
so this is part of when I go in. Yeah, no, but I wasn't sure if it was appropriate at this point. This started last year with previous mayor. It was a letter sent out to the mayor of Cuenca, which is located in Ecuador. We wanted to start a conversation similar to what it has they did in the past years in regards to a sister city with Portugal and Italy. So we started that, and this year we got a letter or an email back from the representatives there in their office, the government office in Cuenca, and the mayor and myself did a Skype video conference, and it's pretty. It was exciting. So I think some things had to be put in place in regards to how we're going to address or how we're going to approach this. We have some sample stuff that it was done in the past. I think we can use that. And they send some stuff out that it needs to be translated. So that is coming. So hopefully that's something exciting that I think will benefit at the end of the day as well. So just like they will too. So that's my report for tonight. Thank you.
Well, there's so many interesting things that everybody's been working on. Yeah, the Skype conversation that Trustee Quesada and I had with the two members of the, again, members of the government in Cuenca. We did the whole thing in Spanish, and then at the end we realized their English is way better than my Spanish, but it was a good lesson for me to try and keep up. Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to reconnecting with them. We have such a rich history of cultural diversity here in Austin, and it's been wonderful to have sister cities in Sassinoro and in Alijao where we have so many people that have become a part of our community, and Cuenca is certainly an area of Ecuador where you've seen a lot of people coming from, so it's nice to be able to reach out and see how we might be able to connect. And you mentioned the Sing Sing Historic Prison Museum Day. That was, well, there's just an incredible wealth of knowledge and impressive people that are working to make that a success. The day itself was emotionally wrenching. I've been inside prisons before, but never in as much intimate detail and extensively as I was that day.
Yeah, I heard that was a pretty intensive tour.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, they were amazed of how they went so deep, I guess, into the food, I guess, that they eat. So, but
yeah, it was quite an experience, and it was very interesting to get a chance to talk to the folks who work there in many different capacities. It was really fascinating. So I look forward to hearing how that progresses. A lot of things have been happening through our relationship with Sustainable Westchester on the energy efficiency and renewables front. You've heard me talk about Solarize an awful lot. This Sunday, I'll remind everybody at the library, the Briarcliff Library at 2 o'clock. People can learn about Solarize program, which is a program that makes getting solar in your property easier to more affordable and breaks down some of the barriers, makes it easier to go through the process. And it's been a really great collaboration with the other municipalities that we do it with. We get together every 2 weeks. Village Planner Valerie Manassa is part of that, as well as all the other entities. It's been moving along very well, and today we got an update that Ossining residents have already been responding with incredible numbers. There's I think 45 inquiries, 26 of them have already had site visits, and 5 contracts have already been signed, and we've just launched this. We're kind of competing with 4 other communities in Westchester, so I think we're winning. Yeah, so let's keep that up. There have been 2 webinars in the last week that I know that Christina and Richard and I don't know, Lori Lee, if you got to participate in at least one of them. The first one was the microgrid, right? And that is quite a coordinated effort. Sustainable Westchester has been taking the lead in getting us information, but it's really to help us take advantage of the New York Prize opportunity that Albany has presented, and looks like Ossining, the village would probably be the lead agency, but really it would be a coordination with so many other entities, with the town, the water treatment plant, perhaps the county for the sewage treatment plant, Sing Sing, that, because they use so much power, and working with some of the infrastructure that we have so close together that would allow us to share renewable energy resources and be, have energy independence, particularly helping us out with resiliency if there's major issues like another Superstorm Cindy or crazy stuff that we've all endured in recent years and anticipate may happen again someday. I don't know, if we're not going to get into detail on that today, but I know that we're looking to identify a contractor that we might work through to, and you've been setting up
We're gonna meet with them hopefully on Tuesday.
Okay,
On the one, and we're gonna try to schedule an appointment on the second.
great, great.
And then we're gonna hope to have them come in 2 weeks.
Great. That would be terrific.
Yeah.
And then on a related, only because it's similar people that are helping make it happen, is the CCA, which this board heard about at least a year ago, the Community Choice Aggregation, which is really a way for the municipality to help have more choice in where we source our energy from. And to allow for this to happen, it was a 2-year journey through Albany, spearheaded by some of the members of Sustainable Westchester, and they did really great work. Then Cuomo wouldn't sign it, and then they got him to, anyway, so now it's signed, it's law, and we get to take advantage of it. We're a pilot. Westchester County has the opportunity to pilot this program in New York State. It's not new in the country, it's new in New York, and we've been learning from the other half a dozen states where this has been put in place. So there was another webinar yesterday, and I think at this point we just have to sign another letter, right?
Yeah, so I thought it might be most, I think it might be most helpful at the time that they come in 2 weeks to talk about microgrid, they could touch on the aggregation as well. We might kill 2 birds with 1 stone or start
Right.
working on them.
Great. Then I talked about Green Building Codes Committee. I would really, I look forward to establishing that pretty soon. We've had that ad out for a little while, so if anybody on the board can think of somebody that you want to reach out to, you think would be a really valuable voice in that conversation, as far as, and it could be from many different perspectives. People who just are fascinated by municipal law, people who are interested in construction, people who are interested in environmental practices, development, anybody who would have an interest there could and would be willing to commit to that, please go ahead and reach out.
Quick question, do you guys have an idea of how big the?
I think we're looking for, Valerie, do you want to speak to that? I think 5 was the number of community members at large.
The 5 boards, which is the zoning board, planning board, HPC, EAC, and then somebody from the village board. So we're gonna have 5 people, more or less a representative from each board, and then we were looking for 5 community members, so you have a total of 10.
Okay.
You
So
know, I
how
mean,
far
clearly.
do we have? How many do we have so far? Do we
Well, I
five?
have the board members except minus the village board, I just need somebody to sign.
I just got trustee comment too.
So then we have the board members,
Okay.
and then I think we're advertising for the community members. I don't know, Christina, did you receive any applications?
Well, there are a couple of names that I think are likely gonna be in that, but as soon as we have enough that we'll do the interviews, I'd like to move that forward quickly so we can get that.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Then, the other one that everybody on the board knows is, on my list, is working with the schools. A couple of years ago, or I guess a year ago, we wrote a letter, and Mayor Hanauer sent a letter on our behalf to our representatives in Albany. Anybody who's paying attention to what's going on with the schools in Ossining knows that in 2008, they froze the formulas for foundation aid. Since that time, Ossining's population has continued to grow, and it's growing with a population that has greater financial drain and has greater people, which is an anomaly in New York State. The vast majority of districts are actually shrinking in size. However, we're all still getting the same foundation formula that was set in 2008. And some of the numbers, there were some adjustments made for this school year. We experienced an increase of about $500,000, which is about $9.5 million shy of the $10 million we should have received this year. So we got $500,000, we should have gotten 10. So as you can see, there's still quite a disparity on what would be fair and equitable distribution of the foundation in New York State. Consequently, the school board is making a significant effort to try and lobby our representatives in Albany and anybody in Albany who's in any position to help acknowledge the fact that though our schools are doing a great job, they're really doing their best to keep up with programming despite the fact that they're being denied adequate funding. And the argument was made well, maybe if we weren't doing as well, they'd be more willing to give us money, but I don't think that's a good plan.
Yeah.
So instead, we'd like to.
Totally counterintuitive.
Yes, but that is how it works, you know.
So nobody go to school next week.
But so they're doing great work, and we're still having we still have a wonderful school district, but we're doing it with a lot less money than we really makes sense. So I drafted a letter. It was circulated. It was all the content, all the documentation in here is directly from the business office for the district, and I just added a few words saying we on the board think this is really important, and please reconsider the. Okay.
Yes.
We're all good with that?
You good?
Is there anything more official we need to do? I emailed this to, did I get it to you, Lori Lee? I know I sent it to Christina and Richard and Lisa.
I was sent the email, but not the text of the.
Then I will make sure that you get it. Okay.
Great.
Great.
Off it goes.
Thank you very much.
One last thing.
Yeah, sure.
I encourage everyone to celebrate St. Patrick's Day responsibly and also to cheer on the Austin Fire Department and other Austin entities and people who will be marching the Sleepy Hollow Parade this Sunday beginning at 1:30 p.m.
Which includes us.
Which includes, yes, us and some other people, hopefully.
Yes, we look forward to it.
Very nice.
Okay, so if we could have a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussion, discussing collective bargaining issues as well as personnel-specific persons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, with that, we thank you very much for joining us for this extensive, very in-depth work session. And please join us next week at the Birdsall Fagan Courthouse at 8688 Spring Street. That is Wednesday, March 18th. Good night.